Alpha of My Nightmares. A Werewolf Shifter Romance Audiobook. Written by Rain Hart. Chapter 1. The Mark Beneath Her Skin. The water was thick, heavy, almost viscous. It clung to her skin like blood, staining her breath with the coppery taste of something old, something sacred and broken. Elowen's limbs floated as if tethered by invisible strings, her body suspended in a scarlet pool that shimmered under an unseen moon. She tried to move, but the crimson waves resisted her, dragging her deeper into their warmth. The air, or lack thereof, pressed against her lungs. Panic burned her throat. Then, fingers brushed her neck. Not water. Not imagined. Flesh. A breath, hot against her ear. "I found you." The voice, low, feral, and amused, curled into her like smoke. It stirred something inside her she didn't understand. A flicker of terror, yes. But beneath it, something darker. Again, the voice whispered, brushing across her skin like a kiss. At last. Then came the teeth. They sank into the slope where her neck met shoulder, not sharp but deliberate. She gasped, more from the heat, the confusion, the rush of feeling than from pain, and as the blood stirred to the surface, she felt the pull. She was being claimed. Her scream was silent, drowned beneath the surface of the blood. She awoke choking. The room was quiet save for her ragged breathing. Ashbourne University's lecture hall stretched around her, sterile and sunlit. Wooden desks. Peeling whiteboards. A soft fan droning overhead. Elowen gripped the edge of her desk as if the wood could anchor her. Students rustled notebooks. The old clock above the blackboard ticked forward like nothing had happened. Except, her heart pounded too loudly for it to be a dream. Professor Lyria's sharp gaze flicked to her, concern breaking the monotony of her otherwise blank expression. "Elowen? Sorry," she managed. Her voice was thin, breathless. "Just fell asleep." A chuckle ran through the room, but it faded quickly. Lyria didn't smile. Her voice cut clean. Perhaps the unconscious mind finds psychology lectures too ironic to resist. Scattered laughter this time. Elowen offered a weak smile, but her hand trembled as it lifted to her shoulder. Something burned there. Later, in the privacy of the women's restroom, she peeled down the neck of her sweater. The mark was there. No blood, no broken skin, just an angry, swollen bruise where dream teeth had pierced dream flesh. But it pulsed like it remembered. She stared at it, nausea climbing her throat. She tried to rub it away. Cold water. Paper towels. Nothing helped. The skin flushed darker as if reacting to her touch, blushing like memory made flesh. Her mind spun. It had to be a stress hallucination. Her exams were stacked back to back. She barely slept, barely ate. Maybe she'd bruised herself in her sleep? Except it looked like a bite. A knock on the door broke her spiral. "Elowen? You okay?" Myra's voice echoed lightly through the bathroom. "Fine," she called back too fast. "Just a headache." Silence. Then, "Your class ended 20 minutes ago." "Shit." When Elowen stepped out, Myra blinked. "You look like you saw a ghost." "Just tired." That wasn't a lie. Back in their dorm room, Elowen dropped her bag and collapsed onto her bed. She stared at the ceiling, fingers tracing her sweater through to the skin below. She swore she could still feel the teeth. And it wasn't over. Today, Professor Lyria announced, we begin with the psychosexual roots of subconscious trauma. Elowen barely registered the topic. She was too focused on the new figure at the front of the room. He entered without introduction. The air shifted before he even spoke. His presence was wrong. Not in any visible way. He wore the usual gray Ashbourne suit, the plain tie, the TA badge pinned to his lapel, but the room tightened around him. Then he looked at her. Not the room. Not the class. Just her. His eyes, silver, not gray, not blue, but metallic, caught hers and didn't look away. Elowen stopped breathing. It wasn't the way people look at strangers. It was the way a predator looks at something it's already decided belongs to it. Her stomach twisted. Her throat dried. She looked away, but she felt it. His attention. It clung to her skin like heat. She dared to glance up once more and saw that he was still watching. Elowen, Lyria's voice snapped her out of it. Can you tell us what Freud would say about recurring nightmares involving predation? Eyes turned. Her face flushed. He'd say the dream symbolizes repressed fear. Or desire. Her voice cracked. Lyria's brow arched. Both, perhaps. Someone snickered. The silver-eyed TA smirked. She didn't look up again. That night, in the dorm showers, Elowen scrubbed her skin until it turned pink. But when she brushed the spot on her shoulder again, the color wasn't pink, it was purple-black. The bruise had deepened, edges darkening like fresh ink in water. Jesus, Myra's voice made her jump. She was standing by the sink, toothbrush hanging from her lips. What? Elowen yanked the towel up higher. Your back, Myra said. And your neck. You fall down the stairs or something. No, just a mark. You were talking in your sleep again, Myra added casually, turning back to the mirror. Kept saying something like, don't bite me. Please don't. Rheven. She chuckled. Who's Rheven? Elowen froze. What? That's what you said. Myra shrugged. Weird name, huh? Her mouth went dry. She hadn't told Myra about the dream. She hadn't said that name out loud. But she'd thought it. She tried to sleep. She curled beneath the covers. Counted her breaths. Told herself it wasn't real. But when the warmth wrapped around her, and her body floated again in that endless scarlet water, she knew it had returned. He was already there. Don't, she whispered into the dark. But he did. His hands were warm, gliding down her arms, pinning her against the water. His breath was ice and fire against her throat. She twisted, tried to break free, but her muscles obeyed someone else. You never should have left, he murmured. But you came back. I don't know you. You will. His teeth grazed her skin again, right where the bruise ached in her waking hours. This time, her body didn't fight. It trembled. You already belong to me, Elowen, he whispered. Stop pretending you don't feel it. Then he bit. And when she woke up, choking on a scream that didn't escape, her sheets were wet. Her skin burned. And on her shoulder, the bruise throbbed, darker, deeper, more real than ever. Chapter 2. Welcome back, little flame. The library smelled like dust and dying pages, like old ink and colder secrets. Elowen moved between the shelves in silence, her fingers grazing the spines of books that hadn't been touched in years. Her footsteps echoed faintly through the long wooden aisles, too loud in the hush of afternoon light filtered through stained glass windows. She wasn't supposed to be here, at least, not in this section. The psychology floor at Ashbourne had a special annex, tucked behind the reference section. It was supposed to be closed. But the door had been left unlocked. Something had drawn her in. She didn't know what she was searching for. Some keyword. Some name. Something that could explain the heat beneath her skin, the mark she could no longer deny, the way her body seemed to remember a man her mind insisted was a stranger. Rheven. Even the name felt like heat behind her lips. She pulled a thick volume from the shelf, Obscure Ritual Psychology, Volume 2, and flipped through the yellowed pages with growing frustration. Nothing. No mention of dreams that bled into reality. No chapter on subconscious bruising. No references to biting or marks that pulsed with someone else's name. She leaned against the table and exhaled shakily. Her sweater itched against her shoulder. The mark. It was warmer now. Too warm. She glanced up and froze. The reading room's mirror, mounted above the old fireplace, had caught her reflection. But it wasn't her. Or at least, not the version of her she expected. Her hair, damp, tangled, clung to the sides of her face. Her cheeks were flushed a feverish pink. Her feet were bare against the stone floor. Her skin, Her skin gleamed with the faint red shimmer of blood-touched water. She blinked. The image vanished. Her reflection returned to normal, dry, clothed, wide-eyed, but the shiver in her spine remained. Elowen? She turned too fast. Myra stood behind her, arms crossed over a stack of borrowed textbooks, one brow raised. You've been down here over an hour. Studying Forbidden Dreamraft or something? Elowen forced a smile. Just researching a theory. Well, your theory is about to miss dinner. You okay? I'm fine, she lied. Myra lingered a moment longer, her gaze dropping to Elowen's neck. You scratched yourself? She asked, nodding at the collarbone area peeking through the loose edge of her top. Elowen touched it instinctively. The skin was raw again, as if something had reopened beneath the fabric. She swallowed. Must have bumped into something. Myra didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. Come on. Library closes soon. That night, Elowen didn't want to sleep. She tried to fight it, drank coffee, scrolled aimlessly, paced her room, but her body betrayed her. Her eyelids grew heavy, her pulse slower. She lay on her side, eyes fixed on the glowing red numbers of her alarm clock. 2:33 a.m. She blinked. And the blood was back. The water cradled her like a promise. This time, it wasn't fogged or fragmented. It was precise. The dream had a structure now, a scent, wet stone, iron, and crushed roses. The air buzzed with heat. She was back in the crimson basin, submerged to the ribs. Her body floated. Her limbs felt weightless, but her skin burned. He was behind her. She didn't need to look. He touched her hair first, the strands damp between his fingers. His palm pressed gently between her shoulder blades. She tensed. You came back, Rheven murmured, his breath trailing her neck. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. You shouldn't have left, he added, dragging a finger up her spine. But you always do. I don't know you, she managed to whisper. A soft chuckle against her skin. Not yet. But your body does. Then his lips, hot, deliberate, brushed the shell of her ear. She flinched. He did it again. Slower. Letting his teeth graze the soft edge as if tasting memory. She tried to pull away, but the water thickened, held her. Her arms floated, useless. I can feel it, he said. The alpha mark is starting to burn. She gasped as heat unfurled from deep within her, a pulse that wasn't hers, but lived in her blood. You're lying. Rheven's hand curved around her hip, anchoring her in place. I don't need to lie to you, little flame. The nickname caught her off guard. It curled into her like smoke, intimate and wrong. He shifted closer, so his chest pressed against her back. Her heartbeat doubled. Don't, she breathed. His fingers moved, slow and unyielding, tracing the place just above her heart. Her breath caught as sensation bloomed too fast, sharp, humiliating, real. I'm just reminding you, he said softly, what you've already given me. I haven't. You have. His lips brushed her jaw. You did. You always do. His hand dipped lower, and a wave of sensation struck her mid-spine like lightning. Her knees buckled beneath the water. She whimpered. Hated herself for it. But she couldn't stop the ache that spread between her ribs, the burn that traveled southward. Her body was betraying her. He knew it. His teeth skimmed her throat now, just above where the bruise throbbed in the real world. You can fight me all you want, he whispered. But every time you come back, your flame burns hotter. I don't want this. No, he murmured, voice heavy with amused affection. But you want me. She shook her head. He kissed her again. This time she didn't stop him. She opened her eyes to a ceiling not made of plaster or dormitory tile, but of stone. She was no longer in the basin. She stood inside a vast, broken chapel, its stained glass windows shattered, the moonlight leaking through vines. The water pooled around her bare feet. She turned slowly. At the far end of the room, a mural spread across the curved ceiling. Weathered but unmistakable, a girl with her arms spread wide, standing in blood, surrounded by 5 towering beasts with glowing eyes and wolf snarls. Her throat was marked by a pulsing red sigil. Elowen stared. The girl on the wall bled. So did she. She gasped and staggered back. A sharp pain bloomed in her shoulder. Her hand flew to it and came away red. Real blood. Then the world spun, and darkness took her. When she woke, her pillow was wet. Her clothes clung to her skin. Her breath came in short, hot bursts. She rolled onto her side and whimpered. Then she saw it. On her white sheets, stark and undeniable, was a spot of red. And her shoulder? It was bleeding. Chapter 3. You talk in your sleep. You were screaming again. Elowen's eyes fluttered open to Myra's voice, muffled through the sound of the running sink and the slow throb in her shoulder. She blinked against the morning light filtering through the blinds, her sheets twisted around her legs, soaked with a restless sweat. The pillow beneath her cheek felt damp, and her mouth was dry as if she'd been biting back a scream for hours. Myra leaned in the doorway, toothbrush hanging from the corner of her mouth, a towel wrapped around her wet hair. She didn't look alarmed, just mildly exasperated. Kept saying, "Don't let him bite me," and something like, "You already killed me once." Myra rubbed her temple. Creepy. I had to put in earbuds. You've never talked in your sleep before. Elowen sat up slowly, the cotton of her shirt clinging to her back. That phrase, it hadn't just come from nowhere. It wasn't some dreamt-up horror script. She'd said it in the dream. She remembered whispering it into the blood-warm dark. Her stomach turned. You okay? Myra asked, chewing on the toothbrush handle. You're paler than usual. And that's saying something. Elowen forced a nod. Just bad dreams lately. Understatement of the century. Myra turned back to the bathroom, her voice floating behind her. Maybe you should go see someone. You know, before the whole campus starts calling you the dorm banshee. The consultation room in Ashbourne Psychology Center smelled like citrus, disinfectant, and stress. The carpet was too clean. The air too dry. Dr. Lyria sat with her legs crossed, pen poised above a closed folder, her head tilted at the exact angle that made Elowen feel dissected. You've had the dreams every night? Elowen nodded, fingers curled in her lap. Same imagery? Mostly. The place is the same. The water. The chapel. Him. A pause. Someone's there, Elowen said, voice lower. He speaks to me. Sometimes touches me. Dr. Lyria didn't blink. Touches how? Elowen flushed. It's not violent. Not exactly. But I don't want him to. Except you respond anyway. Heat crept up Elowen's throat. My body does. But I don't want it. She faltered. It feels like I've been touched even after I wake up. Lyria wrote nothing. Her expression didn't change. You're describing what we call a parasensory transfer, she said calmly. A dream-based physiological response. Rare, but not unprecedented. I feel like I'm not waking up all the way, Elowen whispered. Like, I'm not just dreaming. It's more than that. Before Dr. Lyria could reply, there was a knock at the door. The knob turned and a voice said, Sorry, I thought this room was empty. It was him. Rheven. Elowen's breath caught. He stood half in shadow, half in light, holding a thick book against one hip. His shirt sleeves were rolled to the elbow, and a black watch hugged his wrist. He didn't glance at her, just at Lyria. Their eyes met. A beat passed. Silent. Cold. Familiar. Lyria's posture stiffened, her tone clipped. I'm in session. Of course, he murmured. Apologies. He closed the door. Elowen's pulse roared in her ears. Lyria watched the door for a long moment, then turned back to Elowen. Her voice was softer now. Lower. I want you to keep a journal. Track your dreams. Every detail you can remember. Even the feelings. Why? Because something is surfacing. And you need to be prepared when it does. Prepared for what? Instead of answering, Lyria reached into her drawer and slid across a small black notebook. When Elowen left, the last thing she saw was the glint of silver ink etched on the cover, a crescent moon, surrounded by claw marks. That night, she didn't even remember closing her eyes. One blink, and the world shifted. She stood on Blackstone. The tribunal hall loomed above her, its vast obsidian pillars stretching into a sky devoid of stars. Moonlight spilled through a crack in the ceiling, casting long shadows across the floor. The walls were carved with runes she couldn't read but felt in her blood. And in the center, on a raised dais, stood 5 figures cloaked in dark fur-lined robes. She wasn't alone. Around her were others, young, trembling. Boys, girls, and others who looked barely older than her. They stood barefoot, clad in pale tunics, their necks branded with faint, glowing marks. Elowen looked down. Her feet were bare. A mark pulsed on her own collarbone. Silence. The voice wasn't spoken. It vibrated through the bones in her chest. One of the cloaked figures stepped forward. "Tonight we call upon the blood of the one who was once lost. The flame that died in the Crimson Basin and has now returned." Elowen's breath caught. She has been named. She has been seen. She has bled again. The others began to whisper. Their eyes turned to her. Elowen Reese, the figure intoned. "You are the returned flame. The gifted ruin. The bearer of the forgotten mark." The shadows seemed to draw closer. The air thickened. "Next blood moon," the voice said, "you will receive your first fusion. The Alpha's claim will be made flesh. And the old pact will burn anew." Elowen tried to move. Tried to speak. But her mouth would not open. Her legs would not shift. Her heart pounded wildly, and she saw him. Rheven stepped into the light. No robe. No mask. Only his gaze, silver and steady, landing on hers like a blade. He walked toward her slowly, parting the shadows. The tribunal figures bowed their heads as he passed. She couldn't breathe. He stopped in front of her. "You really don't remember, do you?" His voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Sadder. But there was something behind it, anger or longing or grief. She couldn't tell. "You used to scream my name in the dark," he said. "Now you flinch when I whisper." She wanted to deny it. She couldn't. "You were mine," he whispered. "Once." He reached out. She tried to move back. Failed. His hand pressed against her chest, right above her heart. "You gave this to me." Then, with slow, deliberate pressure, his fingers sank beneath the skin. Not through it. Into it. As if her flesh were water. She gasped, half in pain, half in horror, as his hand disappeared up to the wrist in her chest. Her body didn't bleed. It pulsed. Glowed. Her heart began to shine, soft and red and gold. "You used to beg me not to stop," he said, voice barely a breath. "Now you beg me not to begin." The glow intensified. Elowen's knees buckled. Her head spun. Everything exploded in white. She awoke with a scream lodged in her throat. The room was dark. Silent. But her hand flew to her chest and froze. Beneath her palm, something throbbed. A slow, pulsing heat. She pulled back her shirt and saw it, a faint shimmer of light beneath the skin. Like embers. Like the remnants of something ancient trying to ignite again. Chapter 4: The First Blood Moon. The envelope was made of thick parchment, folded without a seal, no name, no sender. It hadn't been there when Elowen left her dorm. But now, sitting on the center of her neatly made bed like it had been waiting, it dared her to open it. She stood still, bag slipping from her shoulder onto the floor. Myra's voice echoed faintly from the bathroom, something about missing lip gloss and too many glitter options for the dance. The dorm buzzed with anticipation for the annual Moonlight Festival, but the letter pulled her under a different current entirely. She picked it up with hesitant fingers. The paper was cold. Heavy. Inside, a single line in silver ink. "Tonight, if you hear the bells, don't accept anyone's invitation. No explanation. No signature. Elowen read it 3 more times before folding it back and slipping it into the inner pocket of her coat. The campus transformed at night. Ashbourne University during the day was quiet, disciplined, a place of whispered footsteps and ink-stained fingers. But under the full moon, it shifted. The quad filled with string lights and laughter, low music pulsed from speakers near the old stone fountain, and students wove between booths draped in velvet and bone-white paper lanterns. Elowen stood at the edge of it all, her arms folded over her chest, coat buttoned high. She didn't feel like celebrating. "You're not even gonna dance?" Myra asked, tugging at her wrist. "Come on, I even shaved my legs for this." Elowen attempted a smile. "I'm just tired." "You're always tired lately." "I know." Myra narrowed her eyes, but didn't push. "If you get bored, there's a bonfire behind the east dorm. Professors can't see it. Rheven might be there too." She winked. Elowen's stomach twisted. "I'll pass." Myra vanished into the crowd, swallowed by laughter and the golden hum of the full moon glow. Elowen stayed by the edge of the quad, breath frosting faintly in the autumn air. The bell tower above the library glimmered with faint silver, the hour still early. And then, far away, a single chime. Soft, distant, barely audible. Her chest clenched. Another followed. A second chime, then a third. Her ears rang with them. The sound wasn't just heard, it resonated through her bones. She stumbled back from the crowd. Everything shimmered. The lights dimmed. The students blurred. Her heartbeat no longer matched the tempo of reality. She blinked, and the world went dark. Her knees hit cold stone. The smell of ash filled her nostrils. She was kneeling in a vast arena, oval in shape, surrounded by massive obsidian walls. The floor was a blend of black rock and silver dust. Torches lined the perimeter, burning with blue fire. High above, a blood-red moon hung, too large, too close, bathing everything in a crimson hue. A boy knelt beside her, his breathing ragged. Caleb. She recognized him from her literature class, freckles, nervy energy, always with ink-stained fingers. He looked half-conscious. They were not alone. Dozens of figures lined the edge of the arena, perched on carved thrones of jagged silver. Some cloaked, some bare-chested with silver brands across their hearts. Their eyes glowed yellow, amber, red. Watching. Waiting. A voice cut through the silence. "She is not yet ready." "He is." Elowen turned toward the raised platform. Rheven stood at its center, dressed in dark leather and silver-lined robes, hair swept back, eyes glinting beneath the light of the blood moon. He didn't look at her. "Not yet. This one," he said, gesturing toward Caleb, "is marked by impurity. Half-born, twice false. A betrayal by blood." Elowen tried to stand, but her body resisted. 2 creatures stepped into the arena, twice the size of wolves, but upright, misshapen. Half man, half beast. Their limbs twisted unnaturally, silver bands bound around their throats and wrists. Their eyes glowed white. "Wait," Caleb whispered, pushing against the floor. "No, no, please." The guards did not wait. They lunged. The sound was wet. Immediate. Screams echoed off stone. Elowen turned away, but couldn't block the sound, the smell, the crack of bone. When she looked again, what remained of Caleb was a smear of red across the black rock. The crowd above cheered. She staggered backward, bile in her throat. And that's when the arm slid around her throat. Warm. Unyielding. Rheven. His body pressed against her back, one hand gripping her chin, the other curled just below her collarbone, steadying her. Her scream caught. "Don't worry," he murmured against her temple. "You're not next." She froze. "This is only your first blood moon. Tonight is to teach you the rules. The consequences." "Let go," she gasped. He didn't. "You see," he continued, dragging his nose along the curve of her ear, "I didn't bring you here to punish you. I brought you here to make you watch." She felt his breath slide across her jaw. It was wrong how her body responded, how her pulse quickened not from fear alone. "You're the offering," he whispered. "You always have been. But unlike the others, you were meant to burn, not bleed." She couldn't breathe. Her knees buckled. He caught her, lifted her as if she weighed nothing, carried her toward the arena's edge. She struggled, but the fire in her limbs betrayed her. "You feel it," he said. "Don't lie. Every time your heart races, it's because it remembers me." He set her down on stone, knelt beside her. Her hands trembled. He placed one of his over her heart. "You burn for me," he said, almost softly. "Even if you don't understand why." She shut her eyes. "Open them," he commanded. She did. The crowd had vanished. Only the two of them remained in the echo of blood. She woke choking on her own scream. The dorm was quiet. Early sunlight filtered through the blinds. Her chest hurt. She sat up slowly, reaching for her heart, and froze. Under her hand, her skin was warm. Too warm. She threw the blanket aside, breathing hard. Her door creaked. Myra peeked in, already dressed. "You're up. You okay?" Elowen nodded weakly. "You missed a call this morning," Myra added. "Somebody from admin said Caleb Dorn dropped out." "Weird, right?" "He's like a scholarship student." Elowen couldn't speak. Later, when she returned from class, she opened her coat pocket. The letter was gone. In its place, a smear of ash and the faint imprint of 3 letters burned into the fabric beneath. Sacrifice. Chapter 5. Do not trust the wolf with green eyes. The dream began with the sound of her own breath, too loud, too shallow. Elowen ran. The trees rose around her like ancient sentinels, black-limbed and endless, their bark soaked in silver moonlight. Leaves whispered as she passed, murmuring things she couldn't understand, and the ground was slick with moss and something darker. She didn't know how long she'd been fleeing, only that the sound behind her had grown louder. Claws on stone. The scrape of something large. Not running, stalking. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. She stumbled, caught herself against a tree that pulsed strangely beneath her palm, as if it were breathing. Then the growl came, low, guttural, just behind her ear. She turned. Nothing. And then, a hand. Warm fingers closed around her wrist and pulled her down into the hollow beneath a twisted root. She fell hard against a chest, lean and warm, and was shushed immediately by a voice low and urgent. "Don't move." She obeyed, breath caught in her throat. The footsteps passed overhead, heavier than any human should be, pressing the soil above them like thunder. When the silence returned, the grip on her wrist loosened. "You shouldn't be here alone," the boy said. She looked up into eyes the color of young leaves, green, bright even in the gloom. His hair was dark, tousled, his jaw marked with a faint scar. He looked no older than she was. Maybe younger. And familiar, though she couldn't say why. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Kale," he said. "Kale Vexen." Her brow furrowed. "I don't know you." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You don't remember much of anything." "That's part of the trap." They crawled from the hollow slowly. The dream had changed, the woods clearing into a field of broken stone. In the distance, a crooked tower stretched toward the stars like a shattered fawn, wrapped in vines and clouded in fog. Elowen stepped back. "Where are we?" Kale looked toward the spire. "The forgotten tower. It's where the dead truths go to rot." "That means nothing to me." "It will." She turned to him. "Why are you helping me?" He hesitated, then touched her shoulder, right where the bite had left its mark. His fingers didn't press, only hovered there. "Because I remember what happened last time." Elowen felt her throat tighten. "What do you mean?" "You're the blood left behind, Elowen. The one that slipped through. They called you a failure, but you were never supposed to survive. You were supposed to be cleansed in the basin. Burned. Buried." She took a step back. "But you didn't die." "Not really." Her voice was hoarse. "I don't understand." "You were sacrificed," he said. "And Rheven, he wasn't just your executioner. He was the one who marked you for death. The words cut like cold wind. No. He was your judge, Elowen. Your final breath. And now he wants you again. Why are you telling me this? Because you trusted him once, Cale whispered, and it killed you. A sharp pain pierced the base of her skull. She gasped, falling forward, but Cale caught her again, arms strong around her waist. Don't trust the wolf with silver eyes, he murmured. And don't forget what it means when you start to want him again. That's the mark talking. Not love. She tried to answer, but the dream cracked. The sky above them tore open like parchment, the trees collapsing inward in spirals of light and ash. His face began to fade, first the color, then the edges. Wait, don't go. But it was too late. She woke with her cheek pressed to a wooden desk and a cramp in her neck. The scent of paper and dust filled her lungs. The library. Elowen sat up slowly, disoriented. Her heart still beat as if she'd been running. Outside the window, Ashbourne's courtyard glowed with early afternoon sun. She rubbed her eyes, shook off the dream, but it clung to her like smoke. A soft rustle drew her attention. She looked up and saw him. Cale. Same face. Same hair. Same green eyes. Walking past the stacks across the room. She stood abruptly. Cale. He turned. His gaze flicked across her face with cool detachment. Then he kept walking. No recognition. No emotion. Not even curiosity. She followed. Hey, wait. He disappeared around the history aisle. She turned the corner, only to find the aisle empty. No footsteps. No sound. Only rows of untouched books and the scent of cold leather. Her chest tightened. Was she going insane? Was he even real? She returned to the psychology wing, notebook in hand, and reread the dream entry twice, searching for inconsistencies. Her fingers trembled. The words Cale had said, they called you a failure. You weren't supposed to survive. Was it memory? Or suggestion? She needed proof. She returned to the library's southern wing, the one with the locked cabinets and the out-of-date records no one used anymore. She scanned the shelves until her fingers paused on a thin, dust-covered book without a catalog label. Bound in cracked leather, its cover bore only a hand-drawn symbol, a crescent moon enclosed by claw marks. She opened it. The first page was written in faded ink, almost too pale to read. If you've found this book, you've already been offered. Her heart skipped. She turned the page. Every 7 years, the sacrifice returns. The Alpha will know her blood. A shadow passed over her shoulder. Elowen snapped the book shut and turned. Rheven stood at the edge of the row. His eyes were not cold. Not hot. Just waiting. I've been wondering, he said, voice smooth, when you'd find that. Her throat dried. He took a step forward. I've waited 7 years for you to remember. To come back. Another step. His hand reached toward the book. She clutched it tighter. You killed me, she whispered. His expression didn't change. I judged you. Is that supposed to be different? You survived. That wasn't your plan. No, he admitted. It wasn't. She wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. You remember pieces now, he said. That's good. You'll need them soon. What happens next? She asked, voice barely audible. He leaned in, his breath brushing her ear. Next, he murmured, you burn. Chapter 6, You Were Mine Before You Were Born. Elowen didn't fall asleep so much as she was taken. One moment she sat on the edge of her bed, knees tucked to her chest, Myra's soft snores filling the dark. The next, her breath caught as gravity vanished and her room dissolved like smoke. No descent. No warning. Just the sound of blood, like waves breaking against bone. When she opened her eyes, she stood barefoot on obsidian tile. The air was humid, laced with salt and something sweeter, iron maybe. Or wine. Or the memory of it. She knew this place. And yet she didn't. The ceiling arched high above, domed and cavernous, its walls draped in velvet black and inked red with symbols she didn't understand. Symbols that pulsed faintly, almost alive. And there, lining every inch of the chamber's curved interior, were portraits. Hundreds of them. Every single one was of her. Different poses. Different eyes. Some in agony, others in prayer. One image of her kneeling in a field of ash, throat marked with a glowing sigil. Another where she floated in the crimson basin, her hair like a crown around her. And some so intimate they stole her breath, Elowen curled asleep, crying, reaching. All her. All versions she didn't remember. And at the center of it all sat Rheven. Not in his professor's coat. Not in tailored suits or button collars. Here, he wore black robes loose over his shoulders, his skin glowing faintly with silver runes. His legs were spread, arms resting on either side of the throne carved into bone and blood-colored stone. He didn't look surprised to see her. "You always come back here first," he said. "Even when you fight it." Elowen's throat tightened. What is this place?" "My memory of you," he said simply. "Filtered through blood. Shaped by fire." She stepped back, but the air grew heavier. Each breath dragged like silk over wet skin. "You dreamed of me," she said. He nodded. "And you answered." "I didn't mean to." He tilted his head. "You never do." The words pricked something inside her. A bruise beneath the ribs. She looked down at herself. She still wore her nightshirt, thin and pale blue. But her shoulder. The bandage was gone. She gasped. The bite was no longer a bruise, it was a sigil now, raised beneath her skin, pulsing with soft crimson light. It shimmered faintly, almost wet. "I marked you long before this," Rheven said, rising from the throne. "This is only the echo." She backed away. "I want to leave." "You can't," he said, approaching her slowly. "Not yet." He raised a hand, and the walls shimmered. The portraits flickered. "You're not just marked, Elowen. You're called. You were born of a blood pact cast under the old moon. Your soul belongs to the cycle." "I don't understand." "You don't remember." He stopped inches from her. The heat of him wrapped around her like a second skin. "Let me show you." He reached out, fingers brushing her collarbone. She flinched, but didn't move. The contact seared and soothed, familiar and wrong. "You've fled from this truth before," he murmured, thumbs stroking the mark on her shoulder. "Every time we burn, you forget. Every time we break, you return." She trembled. "What are you?" "Yours," he said, voice almost reverent. "Before breath. Before blood. I was yours." She felt it before she understood it, a sharp, gut-deep pull, as if her body responded to a song she couldn't hear. Her chest rose with shallow breaths. Her skin flushed. And tears stung her eyes. "Why are you doing this to me?" she whispered. His hand slid up, cupping the back of her neck, his palm hot against her spine. "Because you asked me to," he said. "In your last life. You begged me to make you remember." He dipped his head, his lips brushing her temple. "You told me," he whispered, "if you cried, it meant the bond was real. That your body remembered before your mind could catch up." His other hand rose, ghosting down her side, not quite touching. She shivered. "And when you cry," he said, "your blood runs sweeter." Her tears slipped free, hot on her cheeks. He kissed them away. Slowly. Carefully. As if savoring every salt-slick drop. She hated him. She wanted more. Her breath hitched when his lips found the shell of her ear. "You were mine before you were born," he said. "And you'll be mine after you break." She turned her face away, shame prickling through her like heat. "Stop." "I haven't even started," he murmured, brushing his nose along her jaw. She could feel it building, something beneath the surface, a need that didn't belong to her alone. The mark on her shoulder burned. Her knees weakened. "You're not real," she said. He laughed softly. "Then why do you cry in your sleep?" She shoved at his chest, but he caught her wrists, drawing them up, pressing them over her heart. "You can keep pretending you're waking up," he said, "but every night you come here, you let me in a little more." She shook her head. "I don't want to." "But your body does." The words slammed into her like a wave. Then his mouth on her throat. Her legs gave out. He caught her. She fell into him. Fell apart. She woke with a cry trapped in her throat. The dorm was dark, the sheets tangled around her. Her neck burned. She scrambled to the mirror. The bite mark had changed again. No longer just red. Now it glowed, deep and scarlet, like molten glass pressed into her skin. Her fingers hovered above it. Her breath shuddered. It was hot to the touch. And beneath it, something throbbed. Not pain. Memory. Or worse, desire. And in her mind, his voice echoed like a spell. In the next blood moon, I will mark you again. And if you still don't remember us, I will make your body remember. Chapter 7. The binding beneath her skin. She didn't remember closing her eyes. She only remembered the cold. It wrapped around her like smoke and steel, a sensation both suffocating and sharp. When Elowen gasped, her breath turned to frost in the air. Beneath her bare feet, the ground was solid bone dust, gray, cracked, and whispering. The sky above the altar was empty, not black or starlit, but blank. As if someone had scraped the stars away. She tried to move. Her arms didn't respond. Her legs were anchored. Then she saw them, long, silver vines etched with ancient glyphs crawling across her limbs. They pulsed slowly, as if breathing through her skin. They weren't metal, not quite flesh, but something in between, alive and hungry. Her body was bound to the altar stone, naked beneath a gossamer wrap of ash-dyed silk. Her breath caught when she saw how the vines circled her throat, looped around her wrists, curved delicately between her thighs as if they'd known every soft place to touch. A voice descended like heat. "You're early." She didn't need to see him to know it was him. The sound of his voice was already pressed behind her eyes. Rheven. She turned her head toward the voice, her movement slow, tethered. He stood at the edge of the altar, barefoot on a path of crushed bone and silver dust, wearing a cloak that bled into the wind. His chest was bare, silver etchings carved across his skin like promises burned into flesh. She tried to speak, but the vines around her throat tightened just enough to warn her. "You should thank the blood moon," he said as he approached. "It pulled you here faster than I intended. But perhaps your body's finally remembering what it was made for." "Let me go," she rasped. He crouched beside her, one hand brushing the edge of the silk wrap on her shoulder. "You say that," he murmured, "but your skin says something else." The vines pulsed. They moved, subtly, almost lovingly, drawing attention to the mark that had spread from her shoulder. It had deepened, not just in color but in shape, no longer just a bite, but a pattern. A sigil that curved down the line of her clavicle. "It's time," Rheven said, his palm now flat over her sternum. "For the first seal." Elowen's body arched as heat struck her spine. "No." But he didn't ask again. He whispered in a language she didn't recognize, and the vines coiled tighter. Her limbs trembled against them, but didn't break free. His fingers dipped into a bowl beside the altar, a dark crimson liquid, thick as old honey, and traced it down her shoulder blade. She shivered at the contact. "This is the mark of the forgotten flame," he said, drawing symbols along her scapula. "The same one you bore when you were first given to us." She writhed. "Don't fight it," he said, dragging his touch lower. "Your blood remembers this. The pain. The fire. The offering." His hand moved to her collarbone. The blood was warmer now, or maybe her skin was. She whimpered as his fingers pressed, shaped, pulled. She could feel the marks being written into her, not just on her flesh, but beneath it. Deep. Rooted. "You begged for this before," he said. "You just don't remember." "I never." "Shoo." His mouth brushed her jaw. "You cried, and the altar drank your tears like wine. You screamed, and it echoed through the old world." He dragged one final symbol across the swell of her throat, right beneath her chin. A tremor shot through her, involuntary, traitorous. Then the vines slipped away from her mouth. "You were never meant to run," he whispered. "I'm not yours," she managed. "You were marked long before you could speak." His thumb grazed her lip. "Before your heart beat." Her teeth clenched. Then she bit down hard until copper filled her mouth. Blood spilled across her tongue, and everything snapped. She woke choking, half screaming into her pillow. The taste of blood coated her mouth, and when she sat up, a smear of red followed her chin. Her hands were shaking. She staggered to the bathroom, switching on the light with a trembling finger. The mirror told the truth. Her lip was split. Fresh. And worse, her shoulder ached. She peeled back her shirt. The mark had changed again. The bite was still there, yes, but now it was surrounded by thin, raised lines. Almost like calligraphy. They shimmered faintly, glowing with the same sick red she remembered from the dream. She twisted to see more. Symbols trailed down her collarbone. Her knees nearly gave. It wasn't fading. It was spreading. She leaned over the sink, breathing hard. And in the silence, she heard something. Not imagined. Not dreamt. A whisper. In Rheven's voice. Not from memory. But now. As if he were beside her again. Reciting the same words he'd spoken at the altar. And this time, she understood them. Chapter 8. Your Heart Remembers Me. It began with a whisper and a warmth she didn't want to name. The Alpha's rest was lit with the soft amber glow of dusk, though no sun hung in the sky. The room pulsed like something alive, walls lined with velvet so deep it seemed to drink the light, the air saturated with the scent of scorched herbs and ash-sweet resin. Elowen stood barefoot on the fur-lined floor, clothed in nothing but a loose silk wrap that clung to her hips. Her hair, still damp from some imagined bath, curled softly down her back. She didn't remember walking here, but she knew exactly who was waiting. Rheven sat in the center of the bed carved from black wood and bone, his robe untied, hanging from his shoulders like shadows. Bare chest marked with the same silver scars she had once traced in her sleep. He was watching her, not with the wolf's hunger she feared, but with something more dangerous. Recognition. Elowen, he said, her name a quiet vow in the hush of the dream. Come here. She should have said no. Should have turned away. But her feet moved. Her knees bent as she climbed toward him, the bed shifting beneath her weight. He didn't touch her at first. Only watched her come close enough for her breath to mix with his. I don't want this, she whispered. You keep saying that. His voice was low. But your body keeps coming back to me. She clenched her jaw. I can hear your heart, he murmured, reaching up to brush a curl from her cheek. It still races like it did that night beneath the old moon. There was no night, she snapped. There was no past. Then what is it you're afraid of remembering? She turned her head, but he followed, his hand slipping behind her neck, his thumb finding the place where her pulse beat too fast. She hated how her skin flushed beneath his palm. You dream of me, he said. Every night. You make me. You let me. Then his mouth was on hers. Soft at first. Painfully slow. The kind of kiss meant to awaken something old and broken. His lips moved like he knew the shape of her hesitation, like he had carved it himself long ago. And when she opened her mouth, whether to breathe or speak, she didn't know, he bit. Not hard. Not cruel. Just enough to break the skin. She gasped, his tongue catching the blood before it fell, licking it from her lower lip as if it were wine. Then he whispered, against her swollen mouth, Your heart beats just like it used to. Her eyes stung. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to pull him closer. But what terrified her most wasn't the kiss, or the heat, or the taste of her own blood mixing with desire. It was the ache in her chest when he said those words. As if part of her believed him. As if part of her remembered. She woke curled into her sheets, lip burning, her heart still pounding like a drum summoned to war. Elowen sat up slowly, every inch of her skin oversensitive. The dream still clung to her thighs. She touched her mouth. A small cut. Barely there. But real. She didn't speak to Myra that morning. She didn't eat. Instead, she wrapped herself in her coat and headed into the woods behind Ashbourne, the hidden paths where ivy strangled the fence posts and the wind spoke in hollow tones. It was her place. Her alone. But not today. He was there. Rheven leaned against a tree, one boot pressed to the bark, the other planted in dry leaves. He looked as he always did in daylight, clinical, composed, disarmingly calm. But his gaze tracked her like prey. She stopped. Her mouth went dry. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. He raised a brow. "Neither are you." She clenched her fists. He pushed off the tree slowly, closing the space between them in measured steps. Her back hit the cold bark of a pine before she realized she was retreating. "You kissed me," she blurted. "In the dream." His eyes gleamed. "I did. You bit me." "I did that, too." Her breath hitched. He moved closer until the heat of his body sank into hers like ink through parchment. "You said," she faltered. "You said my heart beat like it used to." His smile was slight. "It still does." That wasn't real. He leaned in, brushing his lips near her jaw, not touching. Just letting his presence drown her. "This isn't dream," he said. "It's your night. It's your truth, Elowen. You just don't like it." She pushed him, finally, hard, but he caught her wrist. He didn't hurt her. He just held. "I don't belong to you," she spat. He released her. But only so he could cup her cheek with maddening gentleness. "No," he said, voice so low it scraped her bones. "You belong to the blood." Then, with a breath that barely touched her lips, he murmured, "I can make you feel it again. Tonight." Her knees trembled. She didn't answer. Couldn't. But as she turned and fled back toward campus, she knew he wasn't bluffing. Because her heart was still racing. And the taste of blood was still on her tongue. Chapter 9. The Wolf That Almost Loved Her. The dream began in fire. Ash fell from the sky like snow, coating Elowen's shoulders in pale gray flakes as she stood at the edge of the Lockwood Tower, the ancient structure at the heart of the dream world's tribunal system. Its obsidian spires sliced the sky, each window glowing faintly like watchful eyes. She was surrounded by silence too deep to be safe. A trial had just ended. One she hadn't seen, only heard. Screams, growls, bones cracking. Then silence. Heavy. Final. She turned to run. "Come with me." A hand caught hers. She gasped, nearly striking him before she saw his face. Cale. The boy with the green eyes. He looked ragged now, hair matted, skin smeared with soot and blood. His voice trembled like a cord pulled too tight. "There's no time." He dragged her through a shattered archway, down a flight of winding stone stairs that bled into an open corridor of trees, moonless, endless. A forest woven into the bones of the dream. The Forbidden Hollow. "We're not supposed to be here," she whispered. "We're not supposed to be anywhere," Cale said. "But that never stopped us before." They fled in silence, their feet barely touching the ground. She didn't know how far they ran, only that the deeper they went, the colder it became. A place lost between time and judgment. They didn't stop until they reached a clearing tucked behind a fallen monument. Ancient stone wolves lay crumbled, their mouths open mid-howl, their eyes hollow. Cale pulled her down beside him, breath heaving. "You're not safe, Elowen." She stared at him. "I've never been." "No," he said. "Not since Rheven marked you." She recoiled. "You said that name like it's cursed?" "Because it is." His voice was too calm. That terrified her more. "You don't understand what he is," Cale continued. "You think he wants you for love. For memory. But that's just the shell. The truth is worse." "What truth?" "He's devouring you," Cale said. "One dream at a time. Until there's nothing left but obedience." She shook her head. "That's not, he hasn't." But the shame in her chest betrayed her. The heat. The bruises. The kisses she hadn't stopped. Cale saw it. His jaw clenched. "You think you want him. But that's the bond manipulating your instincts. He doesn't love. He consumes." She opened her mouth to deny it, then didn't. Because part of her knew. What can I do? She asked, voice small. Cale reached into his jacket and pulled out a rolled strip of animal hide. Old. Tattered. Etched with runes in blood-red ink. It's a severance scroll. Old magic. From before the Alphas took over the Dream Quartz. She stared at it. Will it work? It might break the connection, he said. But only if your body still has will left. He looked at her then. Really looked. You need to want to be free. I do. He unrolled the scroll and pressed it to her arm. The parchment hissed. And then, pain. White hot, coiling from the rune to her shoulder, up her neck. She screamed. The mark pulsed furiously, rejecting the spell. Cale gritted his teeth, holding her down, trying to force the magic deeper, but then his hands shook. His breath changed. And his fingers, claws. Cale. He collapsed to his knees, groaning. His body jerked as if pulled from the inside out. His shirt tore at the seams, spine arching unnaturally. Fur erupted along his back, his jaw elongating with a sickening crunch. Run, he rasped. Elowen didn't. He looked up, and the green was gone. In its place, amber, glowing and wild. He lunged. She screamed, throwing herself backward. His claws grazed her thigh, sharp, burning. He roared, mouth open, teeth glinting. He pinned her. She kicked, sobbed, thrashed, but he was too strong. Saliva dripped from his mouth as he bared his teeth, aiming for her throat. And then he stopped. His body trembled. His claws dug into the dirt on either side of her head. A soft sound escaped him. Not a growl. Not a snarl. But a sob. Cale collapsed beside her, chest heaving, half transformed, tears streaking the blood on his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. I couldn't hold it. I smelled you and I. His voice broke. Elowen sat up slowly, watching him with trembling hands, heart threatening to break her ribs. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said. I swear it. I thought I could. But the words failed him. And then, quieter. You don't remember, do you? She said nothing. He looked at her, eyes full of something worse than pain. You don't remember what you did. The night you ran. I didn't run. You did, he said. You ran from the Denver. From the right. You tore the bond in half. She shook her head. Cale's lips trembled. You killed your cub, Elowen. The dream shattered. She woke with her hands curled against her chest, her body trembling. A sob stuck in her throat. But it wasn't fear that made her cry. It was the whisper of something darker. Memory. Not complete. Just a flicker. A flash of silver fur. And the sound of a whimper as blood soaked the ground. Chapter 10, Are You Still Human? The silence in the dorm kitchen was deceptive. Outside, the rain tapped gently against the windowpane, the kind of rhythmic fall that might have once soothed Elowen. But now it only amplified the scraping of a butter knife on ceramic, the whisper of breath behind her, the eerie patience of something waiting to speak. Myra sat at the counter, slicing through a bruised apple with mechanical precision. Her eyes never lifted from the blade, but Elowen could feel the weight of her attention, like breath on the back of her neck. You didn't sleep again. Elowen stood stiffly at the stove, watching water boil without knowing why. No, she murmured. Myra's voice was oddly calm. You talked in your sleep again. Same words. Don't bite me. You promised not to mark me again. And last night. The knife stopped. Myra looked up. You whispered, I think I liked it. Elowen flinched. She turned slowly. Why are you keeping track? Myra shrugged. You talk loud. That's not an answer. Myra set down the knife and leaned forward, eyes glittering beneath the dim kitchen light. Did you know, she said, that sleep talking during REM isn't just gibberish? Especially not in your case. Elowen narrowed her eyes. My case? Dreams reveal patterns. Trauma. Shame. But when the soul starts to wake inside the dream, that's when it gets interesting. Myra, what the hell are you talking about? Dream speech, she said, voice lilting, almost sing-song. Reveals what's been sealed. Repeats what was buried. Unlocks what you wanted to forget. Elowen stepped back from the stove. You sound like you're reciting something. Maybe I am. And then, with slow purpose, Myra reached into the laundry basket beside her, pulling out a wrinkled, blood-stained sheet. It looked small and crumpled in her hands, but Elowen recognized the pattern. It was from her bed. From last night. From the dream. Where did you get that? She demanded. I washed it, Myra said. I thought it was just nosebleed stuff at first. But then I saw the imprint. She held up the sheet. There, faint but unmistakable, was the outline of something pressed into the fabric. Not just blood. Symbols. The same shape Elowen had seen carved into her skin during the first ritual. Runes like clawed script. I don't know what that is, Elowen lied, too quickly. Myra smiled. Not kind. Not friendly. Something else. You really think, she said, that you're still human? The question struck like a slap. Elowen blinked. What did you just say? You walk like one. Eat like one. Lie like one. Myra folded the sheet and placed it neatly beside her. But your blood doesn't bleed like ours anymore. Your breath smells like iron after you sleep. You think I can't hear your heartbeat? Elowen took a step back. This isn't funny. I'm not joking, Myra said, her voice calm. You're not just marked, Elowen. You're shifting. I haven't. You have, Myra cut in. You just haven't looked closely enough. She rose from the stool with eerie stillness, walking past Elowen to the hallway. Come. Elowen followed, heartbeat pounding. They entered the laundry room, a cramped space behind their dorm's utility closet, dimly lit and rarely used. A cracked mirror hung on the wall, warped from heat damage. It wasn't the place for confrontation. Yet it felt like a stage. Myra gestured to the mirror. Look. Elowen hesitated. Look. She did. At first, she saw nothing unusual. But as the seconds ticked on, something shifted. Her pupils widened unnaturally. A faint crimson shimmer bled through the green of her irises, flickering like embers. Then worse. Her reflection blinked a moment too late. And smiled. She hadn't. Elowen gasped, stepping back. What is this? You're aligning, Myra said behind her. Your body's catching up with the blood bond. It started with the mark. Now it's in your breath, your skin, your heartbeat. No. You think dreams don't leave stains? Myra leaned in, her voice low, her sense suddenly sharper, earthy, wrong. You think all those nights he touched you in sleep didn't change you? Elowen shook her head. You're not you. No, Myra agreed. But I wear her well, don't I? And then she was gone. Not vanished, but not speaking anymore. She stood there, hands folded neatly, smile gone, like a doll waiting to be wound up again. Elowen stumbled backward into the hall, heart jackhammering. She ran. Didn't stop until she reached the communal bathroom. There, in the fluorescent light, she turned on the tap and splashed cold water onto her face. Her breaths came in broken gasps. You're still here, she whispered. You're still real. You're still. Then, slowly, she raised her gaze to the mirror. And froze. Her reflection was watching her again, but it wasn't following. Its head tilted to the side, moving independently. Then its lips parted, mouthing words she didn't hear but somehow knew. Before the moonbite, you must choose who lives. Then the eyes changed. Glowed. Her reflection's shadow flickered, lengthened. A tail curled behind it. A snout. Fangs. A wolf. Her scream never came. It was stuck somewhere between disbelief and dread. Behind her, the faucet kept running. In the mirror, the beast waited. Chapter 11. The Next Blood Hunt. The sky above the waning forest bled silver. Branches bowed beneath the pressure of a rising wind that didn't move the leaves. Everything was still, unnatural, like the hush before a blade sank into flesh. Elowen stood at the edge of the trees, breath held, as the cold light of the false moon gleamed down over the arena. Her feet were bare. The ground pulsed beneath her toes like a living thing. This wasn't a forest. Not truly. It was a killing field. Blood summons blood, the voice above intoned. She looked up. They stood on the high walk of carved obsidian, the Wolf Tribunal. 12 of them, cloaked in pale bone gray, their eyes nothing but slits of white fire. They didn't move. Didn't blink. Only one of them did. Rheven. He stood separate. Unhooded. His cloak open, revealing the silver-lined armor over his chest, sharp and elegant as carved moonlight. His eyes found hers like gravity. Elowen Wulfe, one of the tribunal called, voice deep, guttural. You carry the Alpha's mark. You have been called to prove the fire in your blood. Elowen's lips were cracked. She didn't speak. The voice continued. The hunt begins tonight. You have 5 nights to claim the blood of 3 cursed wolves. Those who have betrayed their own by rejecting the bond. A second voice added, colder still, if you refuse, the bond will consume you. And then Rheven spoke. Refuse, he said, and you become what we call a blood drinker. A vessel with no soul, no hull. His voice didn't echo like the others. It struck deep, like claws into bone. You become the thing you feared in your dreams, he finished, and I will be the one to take you down. She felt her legs lock. This wasn't a test. It was a sentence. A hiss cracked the silence, and a fissure opened in the arena floor. She was dropped like prey into the forest. Roots curled to catch her fall, slowing her descent just enough to bruise, not kill. When she stood, the canopy above blocked out the sky. A strange scent coated the air, earth and ash, musk and blood. The trees curved unnaturally, their trunks branded with claw marks and sigils she didn't understand. She wasn't alone. 3 others landed nearby, each gasping, reeling. One was a tall boy with dark hair matted in sweat. One, a girl, petite, pale, her left arm already half-shifted into something clawed and trembling. The third was younger. Barely more than a child. Elowen's breath caught when the second girl raised her face. She knew her. Had seen her before. In the library, clinging to a satchel. Crying. Caleb's sister. As if hearing the thought, the girl blinked at her. You know my brother. It wasn't a question. Elowen's voice broke. He's gone. I know, the girl whispered. And I will be too, unless I kill you first. Then she turned and fled into the woods. Elowen stood frozen, her lungs empty. Kill or be killed. Blood for survival. There had to be another way. But her hands were already trembling. She looked down. Her fingertips had darkened. Nails sharpening. Skin stretching, veins rising like roots beneath her skin. No, she gasped. The transformation was starting. The imprint wasn't waiting anymore. Elowen. His voice didn't come from the sky this time. She spun. Rheven stood behind her. Not dressed for battle. Not even armored. Just in black and silence. She backed away. You're not supposed to be here. I'm always where you are. She didn't know whether it was a threat or a confession. You want me to become this. I want you to survive. By killing them? Yes. Her hands clenched. That girl, she's just a child. She's cursed. She didn't choose that. And neither did you, Rheven said, voice cold now. But you're still responsible for what you are. She shook her head. There has to be another way. There isn't. Not here. Not in this world. She was crying now. Frustrated. Furious. Terrified. He stepped closer, his breath warming her cheek. You think I enjoy this? He whispered. You think I haven't watched you die enough times already? She stared at him. He looked human, for just a breath. Then his voice returned to steel. Choose survival. Or choose sentiment. I can't kill her. You can. And you will. No. His eyes glowed faintly. Because the moment the next moon rises, he said, your mark will begin to feed. If you don't give it blood, it will take yours. It will hollow you out until your howl turns to a scream. Elowen tried to breathe. The sound of running, branches cracking. One of the others was already hunting. The game had begun. And her body was responding. Her vision sharpened. Her hearing doubled. Her skin tingled. And her heart pounded not with fear, but with hunger. She stared at her hands again. Wolf claws. They had broken through. No, she whispered. But her body wasn't listening. The mark was burning. And somewhere ahead, she heard the soft gasp of a frightened girl. Caleb's sister. Her first target. Chapter 12. How many times have you tried to kill me? The dagger felt heavier than it should have. Elowen's hand trembled as she gripped the hilt, carved from something blacker than obsidian, wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. Its blade shimmered, not with metal, but with an older truth, one that pulsed like memory. Or guilt. She stood at the edge of the chamber, cloaked in the stolen silence of a dream made only for violence. The fractured moon hall was quiet tonight. Quieter than it had ever been. The ceiling above her was jagged, open to a sky that shimmered with the splintered light of a shattered moon. The wind howled through the broken beams, trailing dust over the altar bed in the center of the room. The sheets were red. Always red. But not fresh. Not yet. Rheven lay still upon them. Sleeping. Or pretending. His breath moved steadily beneath the faint line of runes inscribed across his chest. His face, half lit by dreamlight, looked young in sleep. Unburdened. Unarmed. Vulnerable. She hated that it stirred something in her. The dagger tightened in her grip. He had done this. Twisted her dreams. Branded her skin. Tethered her body and soul to a hunger that wasn't hers. She had begged to forget. And he had made sure she couldn't. Tonight, she would take that choice back. Even if it killed her. She stepped forward, each movement deliberate, each breath a scream held tight inside her ribs. Her bare feet touched the edge of the blood-slick floor. The scent was familiar now. Hers. His. Theirs. He stirred slightly, shifting beneath the furs. She froze. But he didn't wake. Her knees hit the side of the altar. The dagger rose. Her heart pounded in her ears. "You don't get to own me," she whispered, voice shaking. "Not again." And she struck. The dagger sank toward his chest with vicious grace. But before it touched flesh, it stopped. The blade rebounded with a flash of blinding red. Elowen screamed as pain ripped through her, sharp, intimate, cruel. The dagger clattered to the ground. Her hands flew to her chest. She was bleeding, where she had meant to stab him. A strong hand gripped her wrist, forcing her backward. She stumbled, landing hard on the altar, her back pressed into the warm sheets still damp from his body. Rheven hovered over her, eyes glowing like a firestorm. "You learn nothing," he said, voice flat. "Not in this life. Not in the last." Her mouth was open, gasping for breath, her pulse rioting beneath her skin. "You knew," she hissed. "You let me think I had a chance." His hand moved to the center of her chest, right over the wound, right over the mark that had spread with each night. "You always try," he said. "That's what I've always loved." She tried to slap him, but he caught her arm easily, pinning it beside her head. "You've tried to kill me 7 times, he said softly. "Do you want to know how I know?" She couldn't look away. "Because I remember every time," he whispered, leaning closer. "Even the ones you begged to forget." Tears slid down her temples. "You lie," she said. His mouth touched her neck, not kissing. Breathing. "I let you go the first 6, he said. "I thought maybe, if you broke the bond yourself, it would be easier to live with." His tongue flicked across the skin just above her collarbone, where her pulse stuttered. But the 7th time, he inhaled deeply, groaning faintly as if savoring something deeper than scent. "You didn't run. You came to me. And when you stabbed me..." He raised his head, eyes wild, smiling. "You begged me not to die." She shook her head, trying to pull away. His body caged her, his thigh pressing between hers, anchoring her to the blood-slick altar. "I hate you," she said. "I know," he whispered, and licked the blood from her wound. "That's what makes it so sweet." The pain flared. Or was it the mark? She didn't know anymore. His mouth moved lower, tasting the edges of her skin, his voice like smoke. "You think this is punishment," he said, "but this is all you've ever asked of me." "You're insane." "No," he said. "I'm patient." She writhed beneath him. Her body betrayed her with every twitch, every moan caught in her throat. He kissed the place above her heart, where the blade should have pierced him. Instead, it was her blood on the altar. Her memory in his mouth. Her soul unraveling under his breath. "You always come back to me," he said. "Even when it's in pieces." Then, with unbearable softness, he pressed his lips to hers, not rough, not punishing. Just final. She didn't fight it. Not this time. The taste of her own blood was on his tongue. When the kiss broke, he whispered, "This time, I'll remember you." The dream collapsed around her like a burning stage. She awoke with a gasp, her hands flying to her chest. The pain was real. She yanked the blanket away and ran to the mirror. Her neck. A new mark. Not a bite. Not a bruise. Something in between. A symbol. Still red. Still wet. And burning beneath it, a phrase whispered into the hollow of her memory like a prayer sealed in teeth. "You can kill me 1,000 times, little flame, but you will always come back. I'm just waiting for the night you kill them all and beg me to let you live again." She touched the mark and whimpered. It didn't fade. And for the first time, she didn't want it to. Chapter 13. The pleasure is not yours to refuse. The first thing Elowen felt was heat. Not the kind that warmed the skin or whispered of comfort. This was suffocating. Crude. It clung to her like sweat-laced silk and buried itself beneath her clothes. She opened her mouth to breathe and found the air thick with incense, metallic and spiced, as if soaked in old blood and broken promises. She knew immediately this wasn't her dream. This was his. The Dreamforge hall unfolded around her, a cavernous space carved into obsidian, veined with red light, as if the walls bled from their seams. The air pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, syncing too precisely with her own heartbeat. Each breath she took echoed, as if her lungs were not her own. Chains hung from the ceiling, not for binding, but for focusing. At the center of the room was a platform shaped like a crescent moon, and upon it, Rheven waited. He wasn't armored tonight. He wore loose black pants and nothing else. His runes shimmered faintly beneath his skin like submerged lightning. "Elowen," he said, as if speaking her name made her body obey. She tried to step back. The floor refused. He tilted his head. "You don't want to run. Not here. This is your dream," she whispered. No, he stepped off the platform, each step deliberate, predatory. "This is our bond. And you've neglected it too long." Her throat tightened. "I didn't agree to this." Rheven's smile was calm, almost fond. "The pleasure," he said, voice like smoke curling into her thoughts, "is not yours to refuse." The room tilted. Chains shifted, becoming lines of light. Symbols flared in the floor beneath her feet, and she gasped as warmth coiled around her wrists, not touch, but sensation. Like fingers pressing just beneath her skin. "I'm initiating the resonant mark," he said. "The second layer." She shook her head. "You can't." "I already have." A sudden burst of cold hit her spine. She arched with a gasp, stumbling forward as invisible hands guided her down to the stone altar at the room's heart. Her knees met velvet. Her back straightened. And then, warmth again. This time crawling up her back, slow, tender. His fingers. He touched her bare skin just below the nape of her neck. "I told you," he murmured, "your body would remember before your mind could." And he began to trace. Lines. Symbols. Not carved like before. Drawn. Etched with his fingertips, dipped in something she couldn't see but felt, hot and shivering, like melted metal and ice. She bit her lip as sensation bloomed where he touched her. Shame prickled her chest. Tears stung her eyes. But her breath, shuddering, ragged, betrayed her. Her thighs trembled. "Please," she whispered. His voice came low and intimate against her ear. Please what? I don't. Her words fractured under pressure. You don't want this, he offered. Or you don't want this? Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. His fingers slid lower, tracing the space between her shoulder blades. Symbols awakened with each pass, humming in resonance with her breath. She felt lightheaded, intoxicated. Every nerve responded. Not in fear. In want. Stop, she gasped. This isn't right. You've said that before, he whispered, lips brushing the curve of her throat. Then beg me not to stop. Tears spilled freely now. I hate you. I know. His hand flattened over her lower back, pressing her slightly forward. Her spine arched. Her breath hitched. And still, he murmured, you tremble for me. Then, without warning, the sigils ignited. They didn't burn. They sang. A shockwave of pleasure laced with pain tore through her body. She cried out, twisting, but the magic held her still. She felt him everywhere, hands, voice, pulse, presence. Her chest rose and fell in desperation. The sensations overlapped. Desire. Shame. Agony. And he drank them all in, mouth at her throat. Don't you see, he said, voice gentling even as her tears fell. I don't need your consent to your body. I already have it. Her breath broke into a moan she tried to swallow. She hated the sound. But he heard it. He growled softly and kissed her pulse point with reverence. When she came undone beneath him, without being touched, she sobbed. Not from the climax, but from the understanding. There was no line between her pleasure and his power anymore. Not here. Not now. She woke to silk. Music drifted around her, real this time. Strings, soft jazz, laughter echoing from the high ceilings of Ashbourne's grand ballroom. The winter gala. Lights twinkled above. She sat up too fast, her body still trembling. Elowen? She turned. Rheven stood before her, hand outstretched. He was dressed impeccably in black velvet, tie loose, smile polite. Like a man. Not a wolf. But his eyes, they glinted gold when the lights hit just right. Shall we dance? She took his hand before she could stop herself. The music swelled as he pulled her into his arms. He led with ease, his hand settling at her waist. Too low. Too familiar. You're shaking, he murmured near her ear. She closed her eyes. Don't what? He asked, brushing a thumb over the curve of her hip. Remind you, you're not real. Your body knows better. His breath warmed her skin. Did you enjoy last night's kiss? Her stomach clenched. I can be slower next time, he whispered, if you'd like. She almost stumbled. His arm held her firm. Later, after she fled the floor, Elowen hid in the bathroom, gripping the sink. Her reflection stared back. Sweat clung to her brow. Her chest rose and fell. And then, she saw it. A faint pattern glowing through the back of her gown. She turned, tugging it aside. On her back, from neck to waist, shimmered the mark. Spiraling silver. The resonant brand. Each line pulsing toward her spine, toward her heart. And in the mirror, her eyes shimmered, just for a blink. Gold. Not green. Chapter 14. The dream is getting louder. The first time Elowen heard Rheven's voice while awake, she was brushing her teeth. It wasn't the voice in her head kind of thing, not quite. It came from somewhere just past the sound of the faucet, sliding between the rhythm of her breath and the echo of water in porcelain. A whisper. So soft it made her freeze, toothbrush trembling against her lip. _ You still taste like last night. _ She spat, gasped, and turned. No one was there. The mirror reflected her own pale, flushed face and wide green-gold eyes. But just behind her left shoulder, for one fractured second, she swore she saw the outline of his mouth. It got worse. In class, her body betrayed her. No dream. No touch. Just a memory so loud it bled into sensation. She sat there, hands folded on the desk, lecture notes trembling in her lap, as her thighs pressed together and her breath quickened. Heat coiled deep inside her, unwanted and cruelly familiar. A phantom trace along her spine. An echo of a voice not spoken, but remembered. Underscore, slower this time, little flame, underscore. She almost whimpered. And that terrified her more than anything. When the class ended, she didn't hear the professor dismiss them. She only noticed she dug crescent-shaped moons into her palms. By the time she reached the university library, her pulse had steadied but not softened. She walked between the tall stacks of ancient linguistics texts, trying to ignore the fact that her skin was too sensitive, her mouth too dry, and the hollow between her thighs still ached with something nameless. She wasn't alone in the aisle. She could feel it. No footsteps. Just presence. Like breath on the inside of her skull. Then, at the edge of hearing something low. A pant. A groan. Barely there. Just enough to twist her stomach. She turned, expecting nothing. Instead, she found a single open book on the floor. A dream journal. A page smeared with ink. The same symbol from her back. The same one Rheven had drawn with his fingers when she slammed it shut. She found him after sunset. He was leaning against the railing outside the east garden, looking every bit the wolf in tailored clothing, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, moonlight flirting with the edge of his smirk. "You're bleeding into me," she snapped before he could speak. He tilted his head. "How poetic." "You said the dreams were a bond," she hissed. "Not an infection." "They're neither," he said. "They're an unveiling." She gritted her teeth. "I felt you. In the middle of class. I heard you in the bathroom. She broke off. His gaze sharpened. "You what?" She swallowed hard. He stepped closer, slow and measured. "Tell me, Elowen. What did you feel?" "You already know. I want to hear you say it." "No." His mouth curved. "You're still pretending your resistance is real." "I didn't ask for this." "No," he agreed. "You asked to forget." Then his voice dropped, velvet and venom. "But the body never forgets, does it?" Her breath hitched. "You're forcing this." "You think I control the heat in your skin?" he murmured. "The way your legs tremble when I speak your name?" He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, not touching skin, yet she felt it like a spark. "That's not a dream," he said. "That's your desire, unfinished." She slapped him. Hard. The sound cracked the air between them. He didn't flinch. His smile only darkened. "Finally," he said. "Something honest." She didn't sleep that night. Not willingly. But it found her anyway. Not like before, no pull, no fall. Only a slow melt. She stood in the echo vault now, walls of obsidian and silver glass arching above her, mirroring fragments of her body as if to mock her confusion. Every step echoed in two directions, past and present. She knew this place. This was where the resonant mark had been born. This was where she'd been undone. And it was empty. Except for her voice. Except for her breath. Until she whispered, without meaning to, "Rheven." And the vault answered. Not with him. But with cold. With absence. With something darker. A shape unfurled in the shadows. Not Rheven. Taller. Broader. Its face was obscured in black fog. And behind it, tethered in glowing red veins, Rheven stood still. Unmoving. Like a puppet. The figure spoke with a voice like coal dragged across marble. "He is the threshold." It stepped closer. "You are the door." Then its fingers reached toward her and the dream collapsed. Elowen woke choking on her own name. Morning light poured through the window, but it felt unreal. She stumbled to the mirror, clinging to the edges of the sink like it was the only real thing left. Her reflection looked pale. Stricken. And yet, she saw herself lean closer. Saw her mouth shape the forbidden syllables. Resonaire. Then, nothing. No Rheven. No heat. No ache. Just silence. Until, in the mirror, behind her shoulder, the black shadow moved. Chapter 15. She's alive in the dream. The fall wasn't dramatic. There was no scream, no warning cry, no stumble. One moment Elowen sat in the front row of her literature lecture, tapping a pen against her lip, her eyes glazed with the weight of restless nights and lingering whispers. The next, she simply slid sideways in her seat, eyes open, limbs limp, body folding like paper. It took 5 seconds for the classroom to react. 7 before someone touched her. By 10, a classmate screamed. The nurse's voice shook when she called it in. She's cold. I mean really cold. Skin like ice. But her heart's beating like she's running. In the Ashbourne University Medical Wing, Elowen Reese lay on a crisp white cot, sweat purling across her brow while her limbs remained disturbingly still. Her lips were slightly parted, lashes unmoving, a fragile flutter beneath one eye the only hint of life. Her heartbeat was erratic. Fast. Then slow. Then dangerously slow. The EEG machine beside her chirped and stuttered, its digital display failing to make sense of the waveforms. One nurse called it equipment malfunction. The second called it something else entirely. She's not unconscious, the physician whispered, checking her pulse again. She's locked in. They scanned her for fever. None. They tested her reflexes. None. They whispered. Maybe a stroke? Maybe trauma? The attending physician, Dr. Callum, removed his glasses and rubbed his temples. Or maybe she just left. Rheven arrived an hour later. He didn't knock. Didn't explain why a newly assigned psychology assistant had clearance to cross restricted lines. He just walked through the doors, straight through the sterile corridors, until he stood at the foot of Elowen's bed. She looked smaller like this. Weightless. As though the skin she wore didn't quite know how to hold her spirit anymore. He said nothing for a long moment. Only watched. The doctors murmured in the corner. One tried to protest. Rheven silenced him with a look. Then leaned in close. He brushed his fingers along the edge of her jaw, soft as breath. And whispered, so only she could hear. Don't worry, little flame. You're not gone. You've just gone walking. Her eyelids didn't flutter. Her lips didn't move. But the monitor chirped once. Sharp. Then fell silent again. You speak like she's listening, the doctor said, frowning. Rheven didn't turn his head. She is. You believe in some kind of subconscious awareness? I believe in resonance, Rheven murmured. And this, he gestured at Elowen's still frame, at the shallow rise and fall of her chest. This isn't sleep. Then what is it? He looked over his shoulder, eyes dark as ink spilled over fire. She's alive in the dream. And she was. Somewhere far from sterile light and whirring machines, Elowen stood on the edge of a shattered dreamscape. It was a place without floor, without ceiling, only light, fractured into bleeding reds and bruised blacks. Stone pillars floated through the air like wreckage, spinning slowly in place. A single crimson moon flickered above, pulsing like a heartbeat. She stood barefoot, alone, her skin tingling with the echo of distant memory. And then, he appeared. Not from behind her. From within her vision. As if he had been standing there all along, waiting for her eyes to remember him. Rheven. But not in human form. Not fully. His silhouette shimmered with too many edges, his presence heavier than gravity. He wore the crown of an alpha not forged in politics or bloodlines, but in claiming. His chest was bare, the brand between his collarbones glowing with the same mark etched beneath her skin. She took a step back. He didn't move. Elowen. Her name sounded right in this space. Like a tether. Like a sigh. What is this place? She asked. Her voice echoed, multiple layers, like overlapping memories. He tilted his head. This is the brink. The brink of what? He walked forward. The place between your forgetting and your becoming. She wanted to run. The space around her warped as if reading her desire, the ground shifting in response to her fear. But her feet stayed. Because part of her, a buried part, Didn't want to run anymore. You shouldn't be here, she said. But you brought me, he replied. I didn't choose this. You keep saying that, Rheven murmured, but you never ask what the alternative was. Silence stretched between them. Then, why me? He looked at her then, really looked, as if peeling away the layers of girl, student, dreamer, until only what he remembered remained. Because you were mine long before you were marked, he said. And I've waited through lifetimes for your soul to remember that. She shook her head. But she didn't deny him. Not this time. She looked at her own hands. Faint silver spirals had begun to bloom along her fingers. The mark was growing. Not by force. By invitation. And she didn't know whether that terrified her more than anything else. Rheven stepped beside her, lifting his hand. He didn't touch her. He simply waited. If you want to wake, he said softly, say the word. She blinked. The dream, he continued, is only a prison if you close the door yourself. Elowen's mouth parted. But no word came. She didn't speak. And he didn't push. He only whispered. Waking is a choice. In the Ashbourne infirmary, a nurse gasped. Elowen, her finger moved. The doctor rushed over. Indeed. On the sheet, one pale fingertip curled in, twitching once. Then, stillness again. But just outside the window, a gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it a whisper that only one man heard. Rheven turned his head slightly, smiled, and whispered back, She's getting close. Chapter 16, Let me go, please. The room was nothing like the world she knew. No windows. No doors. Only velvet walls that breathed like skin, swallowing light into folds of crimson haze. A bed rose at the center of the chamber, black velvet stretched tight across it, the fabric rippling as though alive. The air itself pulsed, thick with incense, cloying, the scent of iron and myrrh mingling until Elowen's lungs shook with every breath. She was bound there. Not by rope. Not by chains. By red mist, coiling like ribbons from the air, curling around her wrists and ankles, lifting them just above the surface of the bed. She floated an inch above velvet, stretched open in surrender she never gave. Her hair fanned across the pillow, damp with sweat, her mouth open to draw in breath she could no longer steady. Rheven, she gasped, her voice thin. Don't. He stood at the foot of the bed, shadows clinging to him like a crown. His eyes burned faint gold, soft as embers, but merciless as the sun. His hands were bare, the silver sigils etched along his veins shimmering in rhythm with her pulse. I warned you, he murmured, stepping closer, each syllable striking her skin. Every refusal makes it louder. Every struggle makes it sweeter. Her arms strained, the mist tightening as if answering him. Let me go, she whispered. Then louder, broken. Please, let me go. He climbed onto the bed, his weight sinking the velvet beneath her. He didn't touch her at first, just leaned over, gaze steady, lips brushing her ear with words that chilled her bones. I can't let you go. Not to death. Not to waking. You live here now. She shook her head violently, tears spilling. You're killing me. His mouth traced the curve of her jaw, slow, deliberate. No. I'm keeping you alive. Then his fingers found her collarbone. She flinched. A sound escaped her throat she hated herself for making. Because where his touch pressed, her mark ignited, sigils blooming red, alive, as if his hand had reached beneath her skin. Each line pulsed outward from the bite on her shoulder, circling her clavicle, trailing across her breastbone. He pressed one finger to the center of the mark. Her body arched. Her mouth opened in a cry she couldn't stop. You feel it, he whispered, lips against her temple. Every echo of mine. Every pulse I draw. Stop, she begged, twisting, but the mist held her tighter. Please, I don't want. You don't have to want, he said softly. Your body already does. His hand slid lower, tracing the sigils that had begun spiraling down her ribs. Every touch unlocked something inside her, pain, yes, but also the sharp ache of pleasure, mingled until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Shame tore through her chest, burning hotter than the marks themselves. Tears blurred her vision. "I can't, please." His voice broke into a growl, though still low, still reverent. "Don't beg me to let you go. Beg me to keep you." Her sob answered him before her words did. "Let me go, please." Rheven leaned down, his hair brushing her cheek, his lips grazing hers with unbearable restraint. "I can't," he breathed. "I don't have the mercy for it. Not when keeping you means I get to watch you remember." Her back arched as he traced another rune across her spine. Heat flared there, racing down her body in waves that made her thighs tremble against the air, her breath catch in sobs that melted into moans. She couldn't distinguish them anymore. Shame gnawed at her even as her body betrayed her in every trembling shiver. "See," he whispered, licking the salt of her tears from her cheek. "This isn't pain. This is what you were made for." "I hate you," she sobbed. "I know." He kissed the mark at her throat, tongue pressing against the old bite. "But you'll remember how much you loved me when you drowned in this." Her eyes squeezed shut, trying to block him out, trying to resist the storm building inside her. But the dream itself betrayed her. Every sound, her panting breaths, his murmured vows, echoed against the vaulted velvet walls, folding back into her mind until she couldn't tell what was his voice and what was hers. And at the end, when her body broke against the pulse of the bond, leaving her gasping, raw, ruined, his lips grazed her ear one final time. "You beg so sweetly," he murmured. "Every plea makes me want to carve you deeper." The room collapsed in silence. And as her vision fractured into black, another voice, colder, faceless, slid into her ear. "The more you beg to be released, the more he'll make you remember how you were meant to sink." Elowen woke in her hospital bed with her wrists aching, skin flushed, thighs damp. The monitor at her side beeped erratically. Her lips parted, whispering words she didn't mean to say. "Let me go." But even as she said them, her pulse leapt, and her body remembered the dream too vividly. Chapter 17, Bite Marks Where No One Can See. The first thing Elowen noticed was the ache. Not sharp, not jagged, just deep, throbbing, and wrong. It pulsed beneath her skin, a rhythm too steady to be hers. She sat up with a gasp, clutching the hospital sheet, her eyes darting around the infirmary. White walls, white light, the faint antiseptic sting of rubbing alcohol. Normal, safe, real, but not her body. Her body was anything but safe. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the sheet lower. The neckline of her hospital gown had shifted in sleep, exposing the hollow of her chest. There, just above her left breast, was a bruise. No, not just a bruise. A shape. Curved. Imprinted. Teeth. Her throat closed. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Her hands moved without thought, dragging fabric lower, pulling at the hem, desperate for proof she didn't want to find. Her ribs marked with faint red crescents. Her waist, ringed in pressure-darkened bruises, like fingers had pressed too tightly. Her inner thigh. She choked on a sob. Tiny half-moons. A trail. Soft but unmistakable. Bites. She yanked the blanket around herself, holding it tight like it could erase the evidence. Her pulse roared in her ears. She couldn't breathe. Her skin crawled where the marks lay, phantom echoes replaying each pressure, each touch, as if her body remembered more than her mind could hold. Her legs shook as she stood, dragging the blanket with her into the adjoining washroom. She shut the door too hard, the echo ringing in the tile chamber. The mirror waited above the sink, bright and merciless. She turned her face away. Instead, she stripped. The hospital gown slid down her arms, pooling at her feet. She wrapped herself in a towel, then peeled it away too, exposing every inch of herself to the sterile light. And there they were. Her collarbone, her breast, her hip, her thigh, all carrying the ghosts of his teeth. She pressed her palms to her face and wept. Why me? She whispered. Why? Why can't I stop this? Why do I? The words broke. She leaned over the sink, shoulders shaking, salt tears dripping into the porcelain basin. The towel slipped, brushing her calves, sticky with faint red stains. Blood. She caught it, staring in horror at the streaks smeared across the weave. Her knees buckled. She slid to the floor, clutching the towel like it could hold her together, and whispered again. What's happening to me? A knock startled her. Elowen? She froze. It was Myra. Her voice soft. Patient. Too patient. Elowen, it's me. Are you okay? Elowen's throat was raw. She couldn't answer. The handle rattled once. Then again. Finally the door cracked, just enough for Myra's face to peer through. Her eyes found Elowen immediately, crumpled on the floor, arms wrapped around herself. Elowen. Myra's gaze softened. You had a dream, didn't you? Elowen shook her head. Violent. Denial so sharp it hurt. You did, Myra said. A long one. Longer than usual. No, Elowen croaked. Stop. You don't have to lie, Myra whispered, stepping into the room. She knelt, hands hovering before she dared to touch Elowen's arm. He was there. Wasn't he? Elowen's head snapped up, eyes wide. How do you know that? The silence stretched. Myra smiled faintly. Because I know the look you have now. It's the same look I had when I woke up with marks I couldn't explain. Elowen's chest caved with the force of her sob. Don't say that. Don't tell me this is real. Myra's fingers traced the air above her shoulder, never landing, but near enough to feel the warmth. You think you imagined him? The bite, the heat, the way he says your name? That isn't imagination. That's the bond pulling through. Elowen flinched as if struck. Her body trembled harder. Why me? She whispered again, voice so small it nearly vanished. Why does it have to be me? Myra tilted her head. Because you were chosen. Elowen shut her eyes, tears flooding down. I don't want it. But he does, Myra murmured. And that's enough. Elowen's scream died in her throat. She clutched the towel tighter, rocking slightly, unable to stop shaking. Hours later, after Myra had left her alone, Elowen forced herself to stand. She pulled on fresh clothes with trembling hands and turned to the mirror, desperate for something rational, something human to look back at her. But behind the mirror, hidden just out of sight, something else waited. A glimmer. She tugged the mirror forward, heart pounding. Behind it, on the medical light board, hung a film sheet, CT scans of her body. Her spine, pale and skeletal, stretched in black and white down the center. Except, not all of it was human. On either side of her vertebrae, darker shapes threaded the length of her back. Not tumors. Not veins. Bones. Long, curved. Wolf bones. Her breath stopped. Her hands shook against the glass. And when she dared look again, the shapes seemed to move. Closer. Like something waiting inside her body. Chapter 18. That's not Kale. The forest was wrong again. It always was in dreams. Trees stretched too tall, their trunks knotted with veins of silver that pulsed like arteries. Fog drifted low, thick as wool, muffling sound until every step became both deafening and silent. Elowen moved carefully, one hand brushing bark as if to remind herself she was still anchored to something solid. Her chest ached where the mark had spread. The deeper she wandered into Hunter's Hollow, the heavier it grew, pressing against her bones like shackles forged inside her ribs. Each breath felt branded. She pressed her hand to her sternum, teeth clenched. Then footsteps. Over here, a voice hissed. She turned sharply. Kale. He stumbled from between the trees, dark hair plastered to his forehead, eyes wide with urgency. His chest rose and fell, ragged, but his expression was familiar. The desperate gentleness she clung to in dreams, the only anchor that wasn't Rheven. Elowen, he whispered. We don't have long. Come with me. Her knees almost buckled. Relief surged through her chest, loosening the coil of dread. "Kale," she breathed. He grabbed her hand. It wasn't soft. His grip was iron, too tight, dragging her forward through the underbrush. She stumbled, her breath catching. His pace was harsher than she remembered, his silence louder. Branches lashed against her arms as he pulled her deeper, deeper, until the fog grew so thick she couldn't see anything but his back. "Slow down," she gasped. "You're hurting me." "We don't have time," he snapped. She froze at the tone. Sharp. Low. Not Kale's voice. Not the one that used to tremble with restrained kindness, the one that whispered guilt into her hair. This was deeper. Rougher. She tugged against his grip. "Kale, wait." He turned fast. And for a moment, she saw him. His face. His green eyes. But when he smiled, it was wrong. Too wide. Too cruel. "Don't you trust me?" he asked. Her stomach twisted. She tried to pull away again. "Something's wrong with you." He stepped closer, crowding her against a tree, his breath hot against her cheek. "Maybe you're just remembering me differently. Maybe you've always liked me rougher than you admit." Her heart raced. "Stop it." "Stop what?" His hand slid up her arm, pinning her wrist above her head. "This?" Her throat closed. "Kale," she whispered, panic fraying her voice. "I know you're in there. You saved me before. You're not like him." His lips curled. "Not like Rheven?" The name cut through the fog like a blade. And then his eyes changed. No longer green. Silver. Shining like mirrors in moonlight. Her stomach dropped. "That's not you," she whispered, horrified. "That's not Kale." He grinned, showing teeth too sharp, too long. "Finally." Her scream caught in her throat as he pressed his weight against her, his mouth grazing her neck. The mark along her collarbone seared hot, as if answering him. She thrashed, kicked, but his body was stronger, unreal, unnatural. His laugh was wrong, distorted, echoing around the trees. Then, steel split the air. The weight on her disappeared. The false Kale's body hit the ground, silver eyes wide, throat slashed open by a hand not hers. Fog parted. Rheven stepped from the shadows, calm as if he had always been waiting for this moment. His blade dripped with dream blood, crimson searing against silver bark. He looked at the corpse, then at her, his smile sharp. "You only just realized," he drawled. "Pathetic." Her chest heaved. She pressed a shaking hand to her bruised wrist. "You let me believe." "I let you see what you wanted," he cut in, voice cold. "You wanted saving. You wanted tenderness. You wanted to believe there was someone else who could carry you through this bond." He stepped closer, boots silent on the forest floor. "But there isn't," he whispered. "There never was. In your dreams, you belong only to me." Her throat tightened. "I hate you." He tilted his head, smiled faintly. "Good." Tears blurred her vision. "But I can't stop dreaming you." For a heartbeat, silence. Then he laughed. Low. Cruel. Soft enough to hurt. "That's the only honest thing you've ever said to me." He turned his hand, and the false Kale's corpse ruptured, dream flesh peeling into mist. From the ruin rose letters, carved in blood across every tree trunk around them, dripping down in endless streams. Elowen's breath caught as she read. "You already said it once, you would give yourself to the Alpha." The words burned, red against the bark, echoing through the hollow like a verdict. And Rheven's eyes gleamed in the dark. Chapter 19, I Gave Myself to the Alpha. The dream opened on stone. Not just stone, ancient, cracked, veined with silver like frozen lightning. The floor stretched into a vast circle, each slab inscribed with words Elowen couldn't read but felt in her marrow. The walls around her towered impossibly high, their surface carved with spiraling oaths, etched deep into the rock by hands long dead. Torches lined the edges, their flames black, smoke curling upward into a blood-red sky. At the center of the sanctuary stood an altar. A single pillar. Stained dark. Elowen's knees hit the ground before she could protest. Her body folded as though pulled by invisible strings, forcing her posture into something humiliating, supplication. She gasped, trying to rise, but her muscles betrayed her. Her arms shook. Her palms pressed flat to the cold stone. And then she heard it. Her voice. Not now. Not the self. A voice older. Familiar, yet not. It rang out across the chamber, echoing against stone, echoing inside her skull. I give myself to the Alpha. The words scraped like claws across her ribs. She choked on air, shaking her head violently. No, that's not me. That's not. But the walls around her pulsed. Each carving lit with faint crimson, one by one, until the entire hall glowed with her confession. The phrase repeated again, deeper now, layered, her past self, her dream self, her voice now. I give myself to the Alpha. Her throat convulsed. She pressed her hands over her mouth, desperate to keep the words in. And still, the sound came. Her lips moved against her will, her own tongue shaping the syllables. I give myself to the Alpha. She fell forward, forehead striking the stone. Tears blurred her vision. Stop it. That isn't me, she screamed, voice raw. That's not me. A shadow stirred. Rheven emerged from between the carved pillars, his steps deliberate, predatory. He didn't carry a weapon. He didn't need one. His presence was sharper than any blade. His cloak brushed the ground like a second darkness, his chest bare, every scar across it glowing faintly with the marks of old battles. His eyes, molten gold, fixed only on her. He crouched in front of her, tilting her chin upward with 2 fingers. His touch was almost gentle, almost reverent, which only made it worse. Do you think this is a contract? His voice was soft. Too soft. A piece of law carved by others, binding you against your will? Her lips trembled, blood on her teeth from where she'd bitten herself. Yes, she hissed. Yes, it has to be. It can't be mine. His smile curved, cruel and tender at once. It was yours, Elowen. Not forced. Not stolen. You offered it. No. Her scream cracked in the hollow chamber, ricocheting back at her in whispers. No. Rheven leaned closer, his breath brushing her ear. You think I invented this bond? That I shackled you with spells? His thumb pressed against her mouth, smearing tears across her lips. You gave it to me. You gave yourself to me. Willingly. Her body convulsed. Her nails scraped the floor until they split, pain grounding her in a reality that still betrayed her. She tried to speak, but the words came out fractured. I wouldn't. You did. He lifted her hand, unfolding her fingers one by one as if unlocking a lock she'd tried to keep shut. He turned her palm upward. And you marked it here. Her eyes widened. Her palm burned. A faint glow shimmered under her skin, the sigil pulsing like something alive, veins threading outward from the center. She tried to clench her fist. He held her hand open, unyielding. Look, Rheven whispered. The mark flared. And the memory came. She was kneeling. Here. In this same hall. Another lifetime, another name. The blood moon above brighter, hungrier. Her voice unwavering, lips stained with blood as she pressed her palm to the pillar and whispered the vow. I give myself to the Alpha. Her chest heaved. She ripped her hand from his grip, clutching it to her chest. No, she cried, shaking, rocking in place. That's not me. But the voice inside her throat betrayed her. It came again. Without her permission. I give myself to the Alpha. She clamped her hands over her ears, squeezing her eyes shut as though that could stop it. But the sound grew louder, filling the vault, swelling like a chorus. Not just one Elowen. Many. 1,000 echoes, layered across time, all her and not her, all kneeling, all promising. Rheven leaned in until his lips brushed her temple. His whisper was almost kind. You see? I never had to take you, Elowen. You were already mine. She broke. Collapsed fully to the floor, cheek pressed against the cold stone, sobs racking her body. I'm not her, she whispered, choking on tears. I wouldn't. Her voice faltered. And yet her mouth formed the words again. Not hers. Not now. But hers all the same. I give myself to the Alpha. On the floor of the sanctuary, her cries became a litany. Not denial anymore. Not protest. Just fragments of two selves tangled into one. I'm not. I didn't. That's not me. And beneath the broken plea, the echo of another voice answered with perfect conviction. Yes, you are. You did. It is. Chapter 20, You Died Here. The dream smelled of ash. Not the dry, papery kind that floated from burned wood. This ash was wet, cloying, mixed with copper, thick enough to sting the back of her throat. Elowen's bare feet touched stone slick with residue that should not have existed. It clung to her toes like blood that never dried. She stood at the edge of a hollow carved into the earth. No water. No reflection. Just a vast, circular basin, ringed by black rock veined with scars of crimson. The air shimmered as if still remembering the fire. And at its heart, carved into the lowest stones, was a circle of runes. Ancient. Brutal. The kind of language that wasn't read but bled. Rheven's hand rested at her back, steady but immovable, urging her forward. She shivered, not from cold, but because every nerve in her skin screamed, here. This place. I've been here before. Her voice broke. What is this? His eyes burned with moonlit gold, softer than she expected, harsher than she could bear. The end, he said. And the beginning. She shook her head, backing a step, but his hand pressed her forward again, guiding her toward the basin's floor. The stones seemed to remember her weight, her step. Each movement echoed too loud, too personal, as if the ground itself welcomed her return. This is where you died, he said. Her knees weakened. She nearly fell. No. I never. Yes. His voice was low, stripped of cruelty, heavy with something deeper. You did. The words fell over her like chains. Her breath came shallow, ragged. You're lying. Look. He gestured to the center of the basin. At first she saw nothing but cracked stone, fissures where once there had been fire. But then there. Shallow grooves, carved not by tools but by fingers. Human. Desperate. 10 prints, seared into stone as though her flesh had branded the earth itself. Her stomach lurched. She staggered forward. Her own hand rose before she could stop it. Trembling, she pressed her palm against one of the old imprints. It fit. Perfectly. The world ignited. Red flame burst upward from the stone, but it didn't burn the way real fire did. It seared inside her, racing up her veins, kindling memory. She screamed as light ripped through her chest, dragging fragments of a self she didn't want to know into her vision. She saw herself, another self, kneeling at this very altar. A younger face, older soul, lips cracked with prayer. The blood moon above, swollen and merciless. Wolves standing in a circle, silent witnesses. She heard her own voice, not now, but then, whispering the vow, I give myself to the Alpha. And then she leapt, arms wide, into the crimson pool. Her body dissolved into fire. Her scream was cut short by the roar of burning soul. Her last thought wasn't of freedom. It was of him. Rheven. The bond unfinished. The vow unbroken. And then, nothing. The vision snapped, and she was on her knees again, clutching her chest, sobbing, shaking. Her skin still glowed faintly red, smoke curling from her fingertips. No. It wasn't me, she whispered, rocking forward. That wasn't me. Rheven knelt beside her. His hand brushed her hair back, his thumb catching a tear on her cheek. He didn't smile. Not this time. His eyes were wet with a different kind of hunger. You think I let you go? He whispered. You think I let you die alone? She looked at him, wide-eyed, broken. What did you do? His hand slid down, covering hers against the scorched stone. Their marks aligned, glowing brighter. The fire flared. His voice was hoarse with something like devotion, something like grief. Every time you die, I find you. Every time you leave, I tear myself open until I can drag you back. Tears blurred her vision. Why? Why me? He leaned closer, forehead nearly touching hers, his breath trembling. Because I only ever wanted one thing. And it was you. Her chest cracked under the weight of it. The fire surged brighter, licking the sky, painting the ruins in scarlet light. She sobbed, unable to fight, unable to flee, pressed between the terror of memory and the ache of his confession. You died here, he said again, softer, reverent. But I won't let you die again. Not in dream. Not in waking. Not anywhere. She fell forward against the stone, shaking, her hands burning with old vows, her voice strangled by the truth. Her lips parted. The question slipped free before she could stop it. So, who am I? The fire dimmed. Rheven's eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. His answer was low, raw, final. You are my only sacrifice. The basin roared alive, red light swallowing everything, and Elowen's scream echoed across lifetimes. Chapter 21, I'm Not Human. The storm outside had broken into sleet, rattling across Ashbourne's rooftops like fingernails on glass. Elowen moved quickly, her coat clutched tight around her, the night swallowing her footsteps. Her body still burned with fragments of the dream, ashes on her skin, fire in her lungs, the echo of Rheven's words that refused to quiet. You died here. You were mine then. You are my sacrifice still. She wanted silence. She found none. The old teaching block crouched at the far edge of campus like a beast abandoned by time. Its windows were shattered, its doorway bolted in rust. But Elowen had always known where to look, knew without knowing, because her feet carried her straight to the side entrance, where the door gave way under a gentle shove. Inside, dust breathed from the walls, and plaster peeled like old scabs. The air reeked of mildew and something metallic, faint and sharp. Her flashlight beam cut across torn curtains and cracked seats. The university's forgotten theater. But she wasn't looking for the stage. She was looking for what lay beneath. The stairs spiraled down, narrow, half-rotted. Her heart thundered with every step. At the bottom, she found a corridor lined with iron doors. A memory clawed at her throat, small feet pounding across stone, a child's scream muffled in the dark. She almost turned back. Instead, she pushed forward. The last door hung crooked on its hinges. Beyond it, a chamber that smelled of ink and old blood. Cabinets leaned against the walls, their drawers rusted shut. Files lay scattered across the floor, damp and curling. She knelt, hands shaking as she rifled through them. Her name surfaced first. Elowen Reese. Except not Elowen. Not Reese. Other names. Other entries. Each scratched out, rewritten. A birth date changed. A parent's name blotted into oblivion. And then, the worst, a gap. 1 full year of absence, marked only by a stamped word across the page. Missing. Her chest hollowed. She flipped to another file. Another. Symbols leapt from the pages, Wulfe sigils, diagrams of spines etched with bone shadows that mirrored the scans she had seen behind the mirror. Scribbled notes called her specimen. Called her hybrid. Called her error. She dropped the pages. Her breath trembled. Her body shook so hard she nearly fell against the desk. The mirror in the corner waited for her. Cracked, blackened, but enough to catch her reflection. Her own eyes stared back. Too bright. Too gold. Her lips parted, her voice raw. I'm not human, she whispered. I'm the mistake. The wolf they tried to bury. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she didn't look away. She saw herself clearer than ever, the sacrifice that had failed, the child who had vanished, the dream's key disguised as a girl. Not a victim. Not a survivor. A weapon that had been hidden until the blood moon woke her again. Behind her, the shadows shifted. Elowen, a voice purred. She spun. Dr. Lyria stood framed by the half-open door, her white coat spotless against the rod of the theater. In her hand gleamed silver. A mouthpiece. Not medical ritual. Its sharp hooks glinted in the light, curved to pierce tongue and jaw. The doctor's smile was soft, too kind for the cruelty of her eyes. Finally, she said, "You've remembered." Elowen staggered back, heart slamming. "Stay away." Lyria lifted the device, her smile widening. "Now, child, we can begin the true awakening." The door closed behind her with a sound that felt too final to belong to dreams. Chapter 22. Don't Wake Up. The first thing Elowen felt was the cold. Not the dream cold of fog and mist, not the false chill of stone. This was the sharpness of reality slipping away, her body shutting down as if it could no longer tether her soul. She remembered the theater. The files. Dr. Lyria's smile. The silver device glinting in her hand. Then the floor had tilted beneath her feet, her vision had fractured, and now nothing. Nothing but weightless dark. Somewhere, distant but near enough to shiver against her skin, voices echoed. She collapsed again, Myra murmured. Calm. Too calm. She should be on monitor, a man's voice cut off. Footsteps receded down the hall. Elowen tried to lift her head, but her limbs wouldn't obey. She floated, half aware, caught between waking and something deeper. There was a prick against her arm, a sting rushing into her vein. Her pulse leapt. The darkness brightened at the edges, not into light but into fire. Sleep, Myra whispered, her breath brushing Elowen's temple as though bending over her body. The dream holds you better than life does. And then the walls of the world bent. Elowen opened her eyes into another place. A corridor stretched before her, endless, lined with doorways carved from bone and shadow. Each door was ajar, each spilling faint red light into the hall. She walked barefoot, her steps silent. The air was heavy, oppressive with memory. The first door drew her in. She pushed it wider and gasped. Rheven sat beside a bed of stone. Her body lay across it, lifeless, pale, hands folded over her chest. A wreath of black roses circled her head. He sat unmoving, golden eyes dim, his palm pressed to hers. Days, years, centuries, she couldn't tell. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. He only watched her face as though waiting for a twitch of eyelids that would never come. Elowen stumbled back. "No," she whispered. "That's not me." The corridor pulled her onward. Another door. Another room. Her body again, burned this time, bones curled inward. The crimson basin behind her still glowed with heat. Rheven knelt in the ashes, bare hands blackened as he sifted through char, lifting what was left of her with a reverence so raw it hollowed the air. His forehead pressed to her ruined skull. His voice cracked as he whispered promises into the dark. Promises she couldn't bear to hear. "No," she choked, shaking her head. "Stop showing me this." The corridor dragged her farther. Door after door. Room after room. Her death. His vigil. Over and over. A cycle so cruel it became unbearable. She watched herself drown, burn, fade. She watched him wait, through nights without moons, through winters without thaw. His devotion was not devotion anymore. It was hunger. It was madness. She fell to her knees in the hall, her hands pressed to her ears. Make it stop. But the doors swung open all at once. The voices poured out. Hundreds of Rhevens. Thousands. Whispering, chanting, breathing her name. _Elowen. Elowen. Elowen, _. She curled in on herself, weeping. I don't want this. I can't. A shadow fell across her. He was there. Not one of the memory specters. The real one. Or as real as he could be in this dream of his own heart. He knelt in front of her, fingers brushing her damp hair back from her face. His eyes glowed faint and soft, not the burning embers of the alpha, but something more dangerous. Something tender. "Elowen," he whispered. "If you don't remember me, then don't wake." Her breath caught. His palm cradled her cheek, hot, steady, anchoring her. His mouth dipped close to her ear, and his voice was lower now, trembling with something he would never admit aloud. "Stay here. Stay asleep. I'll guard you. I'll keep you. Waking only steals you from me." Her tears spilled faster. I can't. I can't stay." "Yes, you can," he murmured, thumb stroking the corner of her lips. "Your body is nothing but a shell. Here, you're alive. Here, I can hold you. Here, I never lose you again." Her throat closed. Her chest burned. Her pulse thudded against his touch, syncing with his as though the bond itself was aligning their hearts. She whispered, broken, "You're the one who killed me." His gaze didn't waver. "And the one who keeps finding you. I hate you." Her sob cracked the silence. "I know." His lips brushed her brow, tender as prayer. "Hate is the only thread you never cut." Her body trembled. Her soul warred between loathing and the pull of something deeper, older, carved into her bones. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cling. Both at once. Neither possible. Her voice broke again, softer, weaker. "I remember." His breath stilled. She pressed her forehead to his chest, trembling. "You're that person. The one who killed me, and the one who loved me." The corridor blazed with sudden fire, every rune on every door igniting. Her palm seared as the mark at her heart flared into red brilliance, glowing through her skin like molten light. She cried out, clutching her chest, her body splitting between past and present. Rheven only held her tighter, whispering against her temple. "Good. Then don't wake." In the hospital bed, her body arched. Monitors shrieked, lights flashing red. Myra leaned over, her syringe empty, her eyes sharp with satisfaction. The mark on Elowen's chest glowed through the thin hospital gown, pulsing like a second heart. And in the dream, she was still in Rheven's arms. Chapter 23. There's a wolf in my room. Elowen woke to a whisper. At first, she thought it was part of the dream, another echo trailing after her into daylight. Her lashes fluttered against warm light spilling through the blinds, her breath shallow as if her chest still carried smoke. Then she felt it, the weight of presence, not memory. A shadow leaned over her bed, so close she could feel the exhale brushing her cheek. Elowen. Her eyes snapped open. Myra. Bent low, so close their noses almost touched. But her eyes, oh God, her eyes weren't human. The green irises she had always known were slit by vertical pupils, shimmering like molten silver. And when her lips parted, Elowen saw them. Fangs. Long, sharp, flashing in the dim light. She scrambled back against the wall, her breath tearing from her throat. What are you doing?" Myra's smile was wrong, too wide. "You talk when you sleep," she whispered. "You beg. You moan. You say his name. Stop." Elowen's voice cracked. She pulled the blanket over herself like armor, but it was no use. The weight of the gaze pinning her was heavier than cloth. "You're not." "I'm listening," Myra cut in, voice low and feral. Her head tilted, her nostrils flaring as if scenting prey. "And I'm hungry." Then she lunged. Elowen barely had time to scream before the impact knocked the breath from her lungs. Myra's hands, no longer hands, but claws, nails jagged like obsidian, pinned her wrists against the mattress. Her mouth opened wide. For one heartbeat, Elowen saw her friend's face flicker beneath the monsters, terror and familiarity colliding. And then the fangs sank into her arm. Pain flared white-hot, ripping up her nerves, flooding her veins with fire. She shrieked, thrashing beneath the weight, the sound strangled by the pressure of claws digging into her shoulders. Blood welled, dripping warm across her skin, staining the sheets. She twisted her head away, choking on fear, on betrayal. Myra, stop, please. But there was no Myra. Only the wolf. Her vision blurred, tears mixing with the sweat on her brow. She kicked, fought, useless, every thrash pulling those fangs deeper. Her arm convulsed against the bite, her body trembling with helpless shock. Then, something shifted. The mirror across the room pulsed. Its glass rippled like water, a shimmer of red flashing across its surface. Elowen turned her head toward it, and saw him. Rheven. Not in flesh. Not even fully in dream. A projection, tall and terrible, his golden eyes flaring like torches within the frame of glass. His reflection filled the room with a silence that drowned everything else. Myra, he said, though the voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Get out. The air shuddered. Myra's body convulsed against Elowen, fangs still deep in her flesh. She let out a guttural growl, snapping her head toward the mirror. Her silver-pupilled eyes widened, then flickered with pain. The claws holding Elowen shook, then released. Her teeth tore free of the wound with a wet sound. The air collapsed inward. Myra was flung across the room, hitting the dresser hard enough to splinter wood. She crumpled, trembling, her face flickering between wolf and girl, fang and lip, pupil and human iris. She clutched her head and wailed like something splitting in two. Elowen pressed her bloody arm against her chest, sobbing, half from pain, half from horror. Her gaze shot back to the mirror, but the glass was calm again, her own reflection staring back. No Rheven. No shadow. Only her. Myra staggered to her feet. She was herself again. Human. Eyes wide with confusion, her mouth stained faintly with blood, she seemed not to notice. She looked around the room, blinking at the wreckage, at Elowen curled on the bed clutching her torn arm. What happened? Her voice cracked, bewildered, innocent. Elowen opened her mouth, then closed it, breath shaking. The tears burned hot trails down her cheeks. Myra tilted her head, expression faintly dazed, as if her mind wasn't wholly in her body. She took one step toward the door, her voice distant. You shouldn't have broken the dream, she said softly. Now it won't let you go. Then she left. The silence that followed was unbearable. Elowen rose slowly, every muscle trembling, her wounded arm throbbing. She staggered to the mirror, needing to see, to know if he was still there. But there was only herself. Her eyes met her reflection. For a moment, relief almost calmed her breath. Then she saw it. The faint shimmer in her irises. Gold bleeding into red. Not fully human. Not anymore. Her stomach hollowed. She reached toward the glass, her trembling fingers brushing the cold surface. Her reflection smiled before she did. Chapter 24. The Wolf Inside Her. The diagnosis sat on the table like a wound-given paperwork. A thin folder stamped in sterile ink. A summary written in tidy black script, clipped and cold. Non-typical dream-induced psychotic disorder. Elowen stared at it until the letters bled. She pressed her fingernails into her palms, trying to anchor herself, but the words pressed harder. A name for something that shouldn't exist. A name invented only to cage her. This isn't real, she whispered. Her voice sounded thin against the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. You made this up. Dr. Lyria sat across from her, hands folded neatly on the desk, the faintest curve of a smile shadowing her lips. She didn't correct the accusation. She didn't need to. Instead, she leaned forward, her dark hair catching the glare of the lamp, her voice low and steady. You're not insane, Elowen. Not broken. Not hallucinating. What you've seen, what you felt, it isn't sickness. It's resistance. She tapped the folder lightly with one nail. The system needed a word. I gave it one. Co-dream syndrome. But that's not your truth. Your truth is simpler. Elowen's throat clenched. Then tell me. You're not fighting madness, Lyria said, her eyes catching hers with a sharpness that pinned. You're fighting yourself. The silence between them swelled until Elowen's breath turned ragged. What do you mean? Lyria smiled, now soft, almost maternal. You already know. She leaned closer, her perfume heavy, her voice a silk-wrapped knife. There's a wolf inside you. And you keep pretending it's not there. You claw yourself raw trying to be human. And every night, in every dream, that wolf drags you back to where you belong. Elowen's chest constricted. She shook her head, violent, but the pulse hammering in her throat betrayed her. I can't. Yes, you can, Lyria cut in. You are. And the longer you deny it, the louder it will tear. The fangs. The eyes. The hunger. It's not sickness. It's you. The words sank like hooks. Elowen felt them dig beneath her skin, pulling at the marrow of her denial. Her reflection in the metal tabletop gleamed faintly red around the eyes, and she flinched away. Lyria reached into her coat pocket. When her hand returned, she held a vial. Clear glass. Inside, liquid shimmered faintly silver, catching the light in ripples like quicksilver caught in breath. Elowen froze. What's that? Stabilizer, Lyria said, rolling the vial between her fingers as if it weighed nothing. A dream anchor. A needle, yes, but not to numb. To sharpen. To keep you from breaking when your body remembers what your mind resists. She set it on the desk in front of Elowen, glass clicking softly against wood. If you truly want to know who you are, you won't fight when the wolf rises. You'll let it in. The vial pulsed faintly, as if alive. Elowen's mouth went dry. She wanted to shove it away. She wanted to smash it to the floor. But her fingers itched, trembled, reached. She caught herself halfway, pulling back, clutching her hands together as though she could strangle her own hunger for answers. Her voice shook. What happens if I take it? Lyria's smile sharpened. You remember. All of it. What you were. Who claimed you. Who you bled for. And why the dream will never let you go. The walls of the observation room seemed to tilt. Elowen clutched the table, her pulse thunderous in her ears. She thought of Rheven's eyes in the mirror, of his voice in her chest, of the bite marks blooming where no one could see. She thought of Myra's fangs, of Kale's broken promise, of the blood pool she had drowned in before she ever breathed. She thought of how she hadn't wanted to wake. Her lips trembled. She hated herself for it. I think I want to go back. Lyria's gaze softened, though her smile remained edged. Then stop running. Stop pretending you're something fragile. She pushed the vial closer across the desk, silver sloshing. Stop pretending you're only human. Elowen's hand shook as she reached out, closing around the cool glass. She felt its hum vibrate into her palm, the promise and threat both alive in her grip. That night, she lay on the narrow cot in the hospital wing, the syringe on the bedside table. She stared at it until her vision blurred, until her body moved on its own. She pressed the needle into her skin, gasped at the cold rush of liquid fire. Her body shivered violently, eyes rolling back, her breath coming fast. The world dimmed. Her last words slipped into the dark, barely audible, cracked but certain. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Rheven. Silence answered. Then a voice not his. Deeper. Stranger. Curling close against her ear like a blade against skin. You should be. Because what you fear isn't him. The darkness swallowed her whole. Chapter 25. The Price of Waking Up. The tower rose like a needle through the dark. Black stones spiraled upward, every slab carved with vows and broken promises, etched in blood that had never dried. A storm circled its peak, thunder rolling low like the growl of something ancient. Elowen's bare feet pressed against the first stair, the cold leaching into her bones. She climbed, breath shallow, each step dragging her deeper into the dream she had chosen to enter. This time, she hadn't been pulled. This time, she came willingly. The higher she ascended, the heavier the air grew. The walls whispered around her, fragments of vows spoken in countless voices, underscore I bind myself. I surrender my name. I give myself to the alpha. Underscore each vow pressed against her skull until her heart raced with panic. She clutched her chest, whispering to herself, "This is the last time. I won't let him keep me here." At the top, the chamber opened wide. No roof. Only sky, blood moon blazing, flooding the hall with its terrible light. At the center stood Rheven. He turned slowly, as though he had known she would come. His golden eyes caught her, softened, hardened again. He looked like the storm itself, untouchable, waiting, already grieving. "Elowen," he said. Her lips trembled. She stood straighter, summoning what strength she had left. "I'm not here to beg. Not this time." Her voice quavered, then steadied. "I want a deal." His brows lifted slightly, surprise flickering across his sharp features. Then silence. He said nothing, only watched. "I want out," she continued, stepping into the circle of moonlight. Her knees threatened to buckle, but she forced them straight. "I want to wake. To stop being dragged into this place every time I close my eyes. I want the mark gone." She pressed her palm to her chest, where the sigil glowed faintly through skin. "Cut it out, burn it away, whatever it takes. Just give me back myself." Her words trembled into the vast air, swallowed by the silence of the tower. Rheven's expression barely shifted, but the stillness in him was sharper than any snarl. For a long time, he only looked at her, as if testing whether her demand was real. At last, he spoke. "You know what that means." Her throat tightened. "Say it." "If I sever the mark, you will wake," he said, each word heavy as stone. "You'll be free of me. Of the dream." But his jaw clenched, a muscle twitching. His voice dropped lower. "Without your bond, I won't survive the next blood moon. The cycle will close and I'll burn." Elowen staggered as though struck. She had prepared herself for anger, for refusal, for battle. Not for this. "You'll die." He didn't answer with words. He stepped forward, the moon painting the edges of his body in pale red. Slowly, he drew her into his arms. She stiffened, but he didn't press, didn't force. He only held her, head bowed to rest against her hair. His voice came soft, trembling against her ear. "I never saved you for your love. I never asked for it. I saved you because you were the only reason I kept breathing. If I let go, there is nothing left of me." Her hands pressed weakly against his chest, not to push away, not to pull closer, only to tremble against the solid heat of him. "You can't ask me to choose between my life and yours," she whispered. "That's not fair." He pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes burned, not with the cruel hunger she had feared for so long, but with something raw, naked. A grief so deep it became devotion. "Life was never fair for us. It was only blood and vows." Her vision blurred with tears. "I'm tired of vows. I just want to live. And I just want you alive," he whispered. "Even if it means my death." Her breath hitched. His hands traced to her chest, where the mark burned faintly. His lips pressed gently, reverently against it. The warmth of his mouth seared through her skin, through her ribs, down to her heart. She gasped, tears slipping free, her body caught between wanting to push him away and collapsing into the heat of him forever. His whisper burned across her skin. "If you wake, you'll forget. Forget this tower. Forget this dream. Forget me." Her sob broke into the night. "No." He kissed the mark again, slower, lingering. "Yes, that is the price. Freedom costs memory. And I will pay it with you." Her tears slid hot over her lips. She clutched at his shoulders, breaking under the weight of it. "I'd rather live with pain. With memory. With you inside me, hurting me. Anything but forgetting." He shook his head, forehead pressing against hers. "No. You deserve better than chains. If chains come from me, I'll break them, even if it kills me." "Rheven," her voice broke, pleading. "Don't do this." He silenced her with one last kiss to the burning mark, not passionate, not cruel, but sacrificial. The kind of kiss that said goodbye. the kind that carved his vow into her heart deeper than any blade. When he pulled away, his golden eyes glistened. Once you wake, you'll hate me again. You'll scream my name in nightmares. And you won't remember why you ache. He paused, his voice faltering with uncharacteristic fragility. But I will remember. Until I burn. Her tears spilled unchecked, sobbing into his chest. I can't let you die. You can, he murmured. His arms tightened once, then slowly released. Because that is the only way you'll live. The tower quaked. The sigil across her chest blazed scarlet, a heat so fierce she screamed with it. Fire surged upward, consuming the runes along the walls, swallowing the vows into ash. Her body shook, torn between collapse and awakening. Rheven's hands lingered on her shoulders as though memorizing their shape. His final whisper kissed her ear, softer than the storm. Wake. Even if it means losing me. And then his lips brushed her one last time, directly over her heart. Elowen's sob shattered into the roar of the tower as everything split apart. Chapter 26. The Hunter and the Wolf. The maze opened with the sound of blood rushing in her ears. Endless corridors of black stone twisted in every direction, each wall lined with torches that burned silver instead of flame. The ground was slick under her bare feet, streaked with claw marks and the stains of old hunts. She smelled iron, fur, sweat, death, the maze of thousand hunts. She knew the name without being told. It was carved into her marrow. The mark at her chest flared. Fire licked through her veins, dragging her forward, deeper into the labyrinth. Every step she took echoed with another step layered beneath it, her own footsteps from another life. Another 1,000 lives. A hunter always chasing. A wolf always waiting. Elowen. His voice rumbled from somewhere ahead. Rheven. Not as he was now, not even as she remembered him in the Crimson Basin or the Tower of Oaths. This was older. Wilder. His voice cracked through the maze like thunder. Come find me. She stumbled against the wall, her breath catching. Shadows twisted, and suddenly she saw herself. But not. A hunter clad in dark leathers, bow at her back, knives at her belt. Her face streaked with blood, her mouth set in ruthless lines. She chased a shape through the maze, a vast wolf, its eyes molten gold, its body a blur of muscle and fur. The vision rippled, splitting into dozens, hundreds. Each wall became a mirror, and in every reflection she was a different hunter, and he was a different wolf. They fought. They loved. They killed. They bled. One image. She straddled his body beneath her, knife at his throat, his jaws clamped to her shoulder, both locked in agony and ecstasy. Another. His claws shredded her spine even as his hips drove into her, blood smearing their skin as their cries tangled. Another still. Her arrow pierced his chest, and he fell, only to rise in the next breath to pin her down, teeth sinking into her neck. Each scene blurred lust and violence until she couldn't tell them apart. The maze pulsed with it, every surface alive with the sound of their screams, their groans, their laughter that ended in death. Elowen clutched her head, sinking to her knees. Stop. Stop showing me this. But the maze didn't stop. It dragged her deeper, forcing her to feel every echo. Each bite burned her skin anew. Each kiss left her lips raw. Each death hollowed her chest. Each climax left her shaking. She stumbled forward into a clearing at the heart of the labyrinth. Rheven waited there. Not as Alpha. Not as Professor. Not even as the Dream's Master. He stood bare, scarred, his eyes glowing like twin suns. His chest heaved, his hands dripping with blood not his own. You see it now, he said. His voice was low, rough, but no cruelty laced it. Only inevitability. This is who we've always been. Tears blurred her vision. She shook her head violently. No, we're not salvation. We're not love. We're... Say it. His eyes narrowed, demanding. She choked on the words, but they rose from her chest anyway, spilling like blood. "We're punishment." To each other. The maze trembled. The walls lit with red, every vow, every kill, every coupling ignited at once. The sound of 1,000 hunts roared in her skull until she thought it would split. She fell forward onto her palms, body convulsing, half with shame, half with need. Rheven crouched in front of her, his hand gripping her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "And yet you came back. Every time. You still come back." Her lips quivered, torn between denial and confession. Her throat burned. "Because I can't stop. I hate you. I know." He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. "That's why you'll never leave me." Her body shuddered, the mark across her chest glowing so bright it seared through her hospital gown in the waking world. She gasped, clutching herself, tears spilling down her face. "I'm not human. I'm not Wulfe. I'm nothing." "No," Rheven whispered, almost tender. His lips brushed her temple, his hand pressing over the mark as if to soothe the fire. "You're both. You're everything. That's why you were chosen. That's why you'll always be mine." The maze rippled again. Mirrors cracked. Elowen looked up and saw her reflection. But it wasn't her. It was another Elowen, smirking with blood on her lips, her eyes feral and human. She stepped out of the glass like a shadow given flesh, circling. Her double leaned in, whispering with a cruel smile. "If you hadn't killed Cale, he would never have become this." Elowen froze, the breath ripped from her lungs. "No." Her reflection's laugh rang like broken glass. "You knew it wasn't him. You just didn't care." The words sank sharp into her skin, and for the first time, she realized Cale had never truly been Cale. Not in the maze. Not in the dreams. Only another echo, another punishment. And still, she couldn't stop trembling. Couldn't stop reaching for Rheven's hand, even as the truth cut her deeper than fangs ever had. Chapter 27, The False Wolf. The chamber of the tribunal's heart breathed like a living organ. Its walls pulsed with veins of red light, every beat echoing the rhythm of her own heart. Elowen stood in the center, breath ragged, sweat slick on her skin, the mark at her chest burning like an open wound. She had thought the hunts, the maze, the endless blood rites were the worst of it. She had thought she had reached the core. But this was deeper. This was the marrow of the dream. And waiting there was Cale. No, not Cale. He looked like him. The same green eyes, the same crooked smile that had once felt like refuge in the maze. His voice even softened the way she remembered when he had pulled her out of the dark. But now, standing in the pulsing chamber, there was no warmth. Only shadow poured off him in waves, his body shimmering like smoke-given flesh. "You're not real," she said, voice shaking. He tilted his head, smirk widening. "Does that matter? I've saved you more times than he ever did. I've given you hope. Isn't that real enough?" Elowen's hands trembled at her sides. The floor beneath her bare feet shifted with each heartbeat, like she stood on living muscle. The mark at her chest pulsed violently, resonating with the chamber, with him. "You're nothing but an echo," she whispered. A mask. His laughter cut sharp through the chamber. It wasn't Cale's laugh. It was deeper, hollow, cruel. "A mask you made. Don't you see? I'm not the wolf that hunts you. I'm the part of you that runs. The part that pretends to hate the fangs because you fear what they make you want." Her blood froze. He stepped closer. His features blurred, shifting, multiplying. One moment Cale, the next something faceless, the next a reflection of herself with eyes burning silver. His voice wrapped around her like smoke, like shackles. "You hate him," the false wolf hissed. "You hate his hands on you. You hate the way your body betrays you. You hate that you moan his name when you swore you'd never bend. You hate me because I remind you are always going to give in." "Stop," Elowen gasped, pressing her palms over her ears. But the voice wasn't outside, it was inside, under her skin, coiling through her veins. You hate your body, he went on, circling her now. You hate the blood in your veins. You hate that you're not human, not wolf. You hate that you're nothing. You hate yourself. You hate every dream. Her knees hit the floor. The chamber pulsed harder, every vein of light flickering as if feeding on her collapse. The false Kale crouched in front of her, green eyes glowing with mockery. He cupped her face in his hands, hands that felt too much like Kale's, too much like comfort twisted into rot. Give in to me, he whispered. I am your way out. Deny him. Deny yourself. Stay with me, and you'll never bleed again. Her tears burned down her cheeks. For a heartbeat, she wanted to. She wanted to sink into the lie, into the easy refusal, into the denial that had kept her breathing this long. But then she remembered Rheven's arms in the tower. His kiss over her mark. His vow, I never asked for your love. I saved you because you were the only reason I kept breathing. Her trembling eased. Her sobs stilled. Slowly, she lifted her head. You're right, she said, voice low, steady. I do hate. I hate the hunts. I hate the mark. I hate what he did to me. I hate what I've become. She rose to her feet, standing tall though her legs still shook. But I won't run anymore. The false wolf smile faltered. Elowen wiped her tears with the back of her hand, eyes burning with something new, fury sharpened into resolve. I'm not your prey. Not his. Not yours. Not anyone's. If I am both hunter and wolf, then I will hunt you. Her hand closed around a blade that had not been there before, silver and scarlet at once, the weapon drawn from her own will. She lifted it, the point steady despite the tremor in her chest. The false wolf snarled, his form flickering, swelling, his body twisting into monstrous shape. Kale's face dissolved, leaving only a shadow beast with eyes like pits of green fire. He lunged. Elowen met him halfway. The blade pierced his chest, sinking deep into the pulsing heart of the tribunal. His scream rattled the walls, shards of the chamber flying like broken glass. His claws raked her arm, his blood seared her skin, but she did not let go. She drove the blade deeper, until the light in his eyes shattered. He collapsed around her, dissolving into smoke. His voice lingered a moment longer, whispering into her skull, You'll never be free of him. I don't want to be free, Elowen spat, twisting the blade until the whisper died. The chamber convulsed, cracking apart, the walls of the tribunal collapsing into fire and ash. She fell to her knees, blade clattering beside her, chest heaving, tears burning but no longer weak. Somewhere through the breaking dream, she screamed his name into the collapsing dark. Rheven, come back to me. Her voice echoed, raw and defiant, into the ruin of the dream. Chapter 28, The Wolf Who Waited. The first thing Elowen felt when she woke was silence. Not the muffled roar of dreamstone halls, not the heavy thrum of blood moons beating overhead. Just silence. Cold, sterile, humming with faint electricity. Her eyes opened to white. The ceiling of Ashbourne's infirmary, fluorescent bulbs flickering faintly overhead. The smell of disinfectant clung to her tongue. She lay on stiff sheets and four in her arm, a monitor pulsing slow and steady beside her. For one wild heartbeat, she thought she had finally done it, that she had broken free. She sat up slowly, trembling hands tugging at the neckline of her gown. Her heart hammered, terrified to see, to feel. She pulled the fabric down, bracing for heat, for burning lines of silver across her skin. Nothing. The mark was gone. She clawed at her chest, at her arms, at her thighs. No teeth marks, no sigils, no glowing runes etched into flesh. Smooth. Pale. As though none of it had ever been there. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. Her eyes blurred, heart twisting. No, no, no. She shoved off the covers, feet hitting the cold floor. The world tilted, fragile from days without food or rest, but she staggered forward, half dragging her forced stand until it tore free, blood spotting the tile. She pressed her palm to the mirror on the wall. Her reflection stared back. Human. Mortal. Unmarked. The silence in the room became unbearable. Because she remembered. The last thing she had seen in the collapsing tribunal, Rheven's body burning in fire not of this world. The judgment flame, searing through him as though it had always been waiting. His golden eyes holding hers through the blaze, steady, resigned. His voice, breaking as he said it. I guard your dream for a lifetime, Elowen. If ash is the price, I pay it gladly. And then he was gone. Her knees buckled. She pressed her forehead to the mirror, sobbing into her own reflection. The tears streaked her cheeks hot and raw, but no warmth answered. Not the heat of his palm, not the weight of his arms. Just absence. 1 week passed. She walked the world like a ghost. Classrooms, corridors, the echo of her roommates' laughter, none of it touched her. The world was hers again, but it was too light, too empty. She lived in a body with no marks and yet carried scars that no doctor could chart. On the 7th day, she found herself at the old campus theater. She didn't remember walking there, only the sudden awareness of standing before its doors, the dusk light spilling red across broken glass. The stage inside was dark. Dust rose as her footsteps creaked across wooden boards. And there, at center stage, lay a book. She approached slowly, as though any noise might disturb it. The cover was plain, leather gone brittle with age. No title. Just wait. She knelt, fingers trembling as she opened it. The first page held no spell, no sigil, no curse. Only a line, written in hand she almost recognized. When the dream ends, will you still remember me? Her breath caught. The world tilted. The words blurred under the flood of her tears. She pressed the page to her chest, rocking forward, sobbing into the silence of the empty theater. I do, she whispered. Her voice cracked the air like a confession. I remember. I remember everything. Her tears dampened the paper, but the ink did not run. The words burned steady, as though carved into her. She closed the book, clutching it like a lifeline. For a moment she swore she felt warmth stir against her skin, as though he had brushed her hand again, lingering. But when she looked up, the stage was empty. Only shadows stretched in the corners. Her sob quieted into ragged breathing. Slowly, she opened her hand, pressing her palm to her lap. For days she had searched, desperate, for the mark that had disappeared. Now, in the gloom of the theater, she saw it. A faint shimmer. A curve of red. At first, only a thread of light at her wrist. Then it spread, curling up her palm, seeping between her fingers like blood made into shape. A wolf silhouette, etched in crimson, climbing the lines of her hand. Its snout stretched toward her heart. Elowen froze. Her breath hitched. She stared as the mark pulsed once, hot, then faded, leaving her skin bare again. Her lips parted in a whisper, breaking the silence of the stage. Are we really finished, Rheven? The shadows gave no answer. Only the sound of her own heart, thudding, alive, but not alone. Chapter 29. The pool is gone. The light was too soft to be real. Elowen blinked against it, lashes fluttering as warmth pressed across her eyelids. No red glow, no flicker of torches, no silver fire burning symbols across her skin. Just morning sunlight spilling through the blinds of Ashbourne's infirmary window. The steady chirp of birds outside. The muffled chatter of students already on their way to class. She lay still, clutching the sheets as though they might dissolve. The smell of antiseptic was sharp and ordinary. A monitor ticked beside her bed, the beat of her heart steady, unremarkable. Human. The doctor entered after a knock, clipboard in hand. His voice was clipped, efficient. Miss Reese, you've been unconscious for roughly 24 hours. No neurological damage. We'll keep you for observation, but you should recover. 24 hours. A single day. Her lips parted, but no words came. 24 hours could not hold everything she remembered, the hunts, the vows, the burning mark, The way Rheven's mouth had sealed against her chest, as if it might bind her heart to his forever. The doctor smiled politely, the kind of smile meant for routine patients. "You'll be discharged tomorrow. Take it easy." And then he was gone. The silence pressed heavier than any dream. When she asked about Myra later, the nurse told her she had transferred out, abruptly, no forwarding contact. Dr. Lyria, too, was gone, assigned to another research center. Both spoken of as though they were real staff, real students. Both erased so neatly she wondered if they had been there at all. Her hands trembled as she folded them together. That night, in the quiet of her room, she waited for sleep to drag her back. She lay still, her breath shallow, bracing for crimson water, for golden eyes gleaming from shadow. She clutched her pillow, waiting for teeth to break skin. But morning came, and nothing. No pool, no fire, no wolf. The next day she walked through Ashbourne's library. Every shelf she searched. Psychology, folklore, myth. She dragged ladders, opened archives, flipped through yellowed indexes until her fingers were raw. No mention of the Crimson Basin. No record of dream wolves, of sacrificial vows. The old notebook she had once clutched like a lifeline, the one inscribed with the words, "Every 7 years, the sacrifice will return," was gone. She whispered aloud between stacks, her voice breaking. "Please. Something. Just 1 page. 1 word." The library answered with silence. Days bled into each other. Classes returned. The campus hummed with the same ordinary chaos she had once prayed for. And yet, every laugh in the courtyard cut like a wound. Every ray of sunlight hurt. The world was too clean, too empty. She walked the halls like a shadow, always listening for a whisper that never came. And still, at night, her dreams were blank. No blood, no hunts, no Rheven. Her heart ached with a hollow that nothing filled. Sometimes she pressed her hand against her chest, desperate to feel the burn of the mark again, even the pain of it. Anything to prove it had been real. Anything to prove he had been real. One evening, she found herself drawn back to the old theater. The building was deserted, its doors unlocked, the scent of dust and wood thick in the air. She stepped onto the stage, the boards groaning beneath her feet. The spotlight hung broken above, but the twilight streaming through high windows bathed her in pale gold. The seats stretched out empty before her. No shadows stirred. No wolves waited. Her throat tightened. She lifted her face toward the empty auditorium, as though he might be watching, as though the dream might bleed through the cracks of the world again if only she asked. Her voice was a whisper, trembling into the vast silence. "You're not just a dream. You can't be." The words hung unanswered in the air. And yet her chest tightened as though somewhere, across ash and blood and fire, someone heard. Chapter 30, Another Dream. The library was nearly silent that afternoon. Only the occasional shuffle of pages and the creak of the old radiator broke the hush. Students drifted in and out of the reading room, but Elowen had wandered further than she ever had before, her steps carrying her past the clean shelves and orderly stacks, deeper into a section left almost forgotten. Dust motes swirled in the shafts of late sunlight. The air smelled of mildew and ink. She trailed her fingers along warped wood, titles rubbed clean from their spines. Something in her chest urged her onward, as though the echo of the dream itself had guided her here. She stopped when she saw it. Wedged between 2 cracked atlases, a letter rested, pale and fragile with age. Its envelope was yellowed, brittle at the edges, but the seal was fresh, sharp, unmistakable. A circle formed by a wolf's elongated claw, curving around the arc of a blood moon. Her heart faltered. She reached for it with trembling hands, afraid the paper might crumble, afraid it might vanish if she touched it too roughly. She slid it free, the weight of it far too heavy for a single page. Her name was not written. There was no address, no mark but the seal. Yet she knew it had been left for her. She broke it open carefully. The flap lifted, and within lay a single sheet of parchment. No flourish, no long explanation. Only one line, written in a hand she could see as vividly as if it had traced scars across her skin. You've slept too long, Elowen. I am waiting for you in another dream. R. Her breath hitched, the sound almost a sob. For a long moment, she stared, her chest tight, her vision blurred. The library around her blurred into haze, but the words cut through with the force of a heartbeat. Real. Solid. His. Her lips trembled into a smile. Not bright. Not relieved. A smile layered with ache, with memory, with the kind of love that came tangled in grief. She folded the paper carefully, reverently, as if it might bleed in her hands. She tucked it into the pocket at her chest, close to where the mark had burned so many times before. She turned toward the tall library windows. Beyond the glass, the late afternoon was calm, sky-soft blue fading into gold. Yet when she looked harder, her vision swam, her eyes catching a flicker of silver. Her reflection in the glass stared back at her, pupils rimmed with a glow she knew too well. A light she had thought extinguished. Her voice was a whisper, not quite laughter, not quite tears. You're still here. The silence of the library answered with nothing but stillness. She closed her eyes, pressing the letter tighter to her heart. She could live, she could wake, she could walk through this world with no pools, no marks, no wolves in her room. And still, somewhere, he waited. When she opened her eyes again, the world was already changing. The glass of the window trembled as though touched by a phantom wind. Outside, the sun dimmed unnaturally, the sky burning into hues of crimson. Slowly, impossibly, a curve of blood moon lifted above the horizon, staining the library walls with scarlet light. Her pulse thundered. Her lips parted, the words spilling before she could stop them. Rheven. And then, the voice. Soft, low, so close it brushed the shell of her ear though no one stood behind her. Welcome back, little flame. Her heart caught fire. The letter burned like a second heartbeat against her chest. And the dream began again.